Sawate mihi nomen est Stella et hoc est Backward the Oracle, the Barbara Gordon podcast, episode 243 for February MMXXIV. It is the shipper special number 12. Backward the Oracle is brought to you by MileHighComics.com, your new and collectible comic book store. Mile High Comics has an inventory of over 5 million comics from the gold, silver, bronze, and modern age, and over 100,000 trade paperbacks. If you're not into the vintage stock, Mile High Comics also has a subscription service called the New Issue Comics Express, offering a discounted price for comics ready to hit the shelves. So, if you're looking for vintage back issues or a great modern subscription service, be sure to check out milehighcomics.com. Okay, the 12th shipper special. Took a year off, but we're back. Donovan and I were in a row. We had broken up. We had enough of each other. So that's why we didn't have it last year. It's just
news to me.
News to him, yes. But of course, I cannot do a shipper special without my erstwhile lover. And here he is, Juicy Peach himself, Donovan Morgan Grant.
I'd stand up and moon again, but I think the laptop camera would fall to the ground and break everything.
Yeah, we already got warnings on YouTube about that. So, well, welcome. How do you feel? I'm just kidding. How do you feel?
I'm excited to make you scream once again, as I always am.
I can't wait. Yes. Are you ready to potentially be canceled on social media?
Well, my chances always go up whenever I'm on Batgirl at Oracle. So.
That might be true. What you look like you're wearing a shirt that I don't appreciate.
I'm wearing a shirt that you got me.
Frickin' Min-May. I will say that I'm so deep into the smut that I bought a sweatshirt that says Briar University Hockey on it and has one of the male characters from one of these smutty books. Actually, I really love that particular male character and his number. So that's how far down the rabbit hole I've gotten with Elle Kennedy. I've finished her series, but now there's one remaining. So we're both wearing kind of shippery things. Mine doesn't come on the list. If yours comes on the list, you can expect there to be pain. Pain afterwards.
Okay. Well, I think it's funny that you start off kind of like, referencing all the things you've been reading in the last few months, and how deep in the filth your mind has been. Am I to anticipate that this is going to be a particularly sordid episode of Shipper Spotlight this year?
Listen, it could be. It could honestly be. To warm up, actually, I wanted to see what were the top tropes, the top romance tropes that writers use. So I thought we could play a quick round of Smash or Pash, whether you like the trope or if you don't like the trope. But
Okay.
just 12. There was a site that had like 150 tropes. This comes from eviealexanderauthor.com. Okay, you ready? So Smash or Pass, friends to lovers.
Smash.
Okay, I would also
Smash is good, right?
Yeah, Smash is good. Yeah. Enemies to lovers.
Smash.
Smash also. Forbidden love.
Is that like taboo stuff, like familial stuff?
Potentially, I think, yeah, you could kind of interpret that however I feel like, would Romeo and Juliet technically be forbidden love because those two families were at war with each other? I feel like you could almost interpret.
Ooh, I don't know, because it really depends. I feel that like if I say smash, someone could be like, "What you mean, brother and sister?" And it's like, well, so I think just to tread lightly, I will say pass because I can see that's how we get canceled.
That is how we get canceled. Yeah. I would also say pass. I think there are some things like Pyramus and Thisbe or something where they were not allowed, even though there's a wall separating them, their families hate each other. So like certain things like that would be great, but otherwise I think I'm past. Secret identity / billionaire / royal.
Gosh. Does that mean that someone is dating somebody, but they don't know that the person that they're dating is really somebody in disguise?
Correct. Or the other person technically is lying to them and they haven't told them who they really are.
Oh, smash. That's funny.
Really? I'm gonna say pass just because the lies, man, they get out of control. You know that's gonna lead to a breakup and betrayal, all that stuff. Stuck together, for an example, trapped in an elevator.
And not like stuck in a washing machine or something like that. Smash.
Yeah, I'll smash. Your coworker would also smash this. She says that she enjoys what is that called? I can't remember what the exact trope because there's like a different name for that, but basically like forced confinement, something like that. So she would also
Oh,
like that.
shout out to Danielle.
Yeah. Best friend's brother slash sister. There's always some
I
ups.
don't know if I've seen a romance where that's happened and I've been rooting for it. Although I'm not going to say that would turn me off either, but I will say the moment pass.
Okay. I think I'll say Smash if only because I have read a couple of those. They seem to happen in the sports books, the sports romance books, and they're okay. Though it's not my favorite. There's always like inevitably like we're running around in secret because my blank will not accept this. But second chance. This could mean, this might be open to interpretation. I feel like it means they were together at some point and some betrayal or something happened, and then they find each other again down the road. And so it kind of takes some reconciliation. That would be my interpretation of it.
Uh, in some ways, one of my choices kind of has that, so I'll say Smash.
Ooh, okay. I would also say Smash. I've read a couple of those. And those I feel like there are some good storylines with those. Soulmates?
It's a bit cheesy, isn't it? Uh, hmm. I'll say I'll say pass because I think that's just too easy.
Yeah,
I like a little bit of a more grounded obstacles to sort of refine the romance
sure.
rather than just kind of lock it in automatically.
I understand. I'll also pass. Fake relationship.
Oh, that's dumb. I can get by with the secret identities, but like that is, we're not really dating. We're only here to, show up for my teacher's wedding. That pass.
Also going to pass. I really don't like that one. Surprise pregnancy.
There is a whole, did I tell you about this? There's a whole industry of that, of like, I'm getting with somebody and I'm also like spontaneously pregnant. I'll show you those next time I go to work.
Oh, great.
This sounds so ridiculous though. Pass.
I am also going to pass. What's funny is in my reading, my fevered reading, I had not encountered it at all. And then on Instagram, suddenly I saw someone like reading, loving different tropes. And then she encounters the pregnancy trope. She closes the book and puts it away. And after I saw that, I kid you not, I had like two back-to-back surprise pregnancies. I was like, this is no. That and apparently the breeder kink, which I had to look up very specific what that is. But I'm just like, this
I'm
is
familiar with
nuts,
that.
people. This is nuts. Let's see. Amnesia, mistaken identity, slash, so or.
Like Overboard. Did you ever see that movie with Goldie Hawn?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That sounds rather criminal, so I'll say pass.
I think I will also pass on that one. And then similar to friends with to lovers, but friends with benefits to lovers.
Uh, I'll say smash because that has a chance to be either funny or pretty gripping depending on how it's done. Although it can be up in the air regarding how it's done. It kind of depends on the aims of the writer. So we'll see. But
I'm
I'll say
going,
smash.
yeah, I've read countless, I would say, but I will pass. I just don't. I feel like friends with benefits doesn't exist. I know it exists, but I just feel like two feelings get wrapped up. There's no way you can go into that and be like, no feelings whatsoever, at least in my opinion. Um,
Smooching buddies.
yeah. Oh yeah. So anyways, thank you for playing Smash or Pass with romance tropes. So we've delayed it far enough. Donovan and I are doing, I don't even know how to describe this. So basically, we have picked our top 5 couples that we would consider maybe toxic, that they probably should not be together. It's unhealthy in some way, which we'll probably talk about, like why they should be together. But we love that they are together. And it's like maybe there's some shame attached to us. There might be one or two for me, but we just are like, yes, despite what society tells us, we're like on board for the couple. This is going to be part of a two-part. So next year you will have couples that we despise, basically, whether they're toxic or not. I actually took to X-Witter and asked if anyone had any favorite toxic couples, and a troll said Barbara Gordon, Dick Grayson. Ian Prime said Bruce and Talia. Craig said the two people doing this episode, which would be
Go to Craig.
you and I. And I think you went for that. I don't understand. I feel like I'm the perfect girlfriend for you. Whatever your issues are, I don't even know. And then Josh responded with the two people from Cheers. Is that Jack and Diane?
Uh, it's Ted Danson and
Whoever that is.
Shelley
Yeah.
Long's
Yeah.
characters.
So those were the responses that we got. I can't wait to hear if viewers of this video will tell us. So I am first this year because I had to go and research the previous year and see who went first. And what will happen is I will show an image of the couple, and I will explain where it's from and kind of talk about them. And some of them will be harder for me to explain why I love them. It's just one of those situations of I'm there for it. And but I'll definitely talk about why they shouldn't be together. The caveat is I think there are a couple caveats because I am going to be talking about definitely some taboo things like societally, and one of mine involves a sexual assault, so I do have to talk about that. And then also I think just kind of keep in mind that we're like not necessarily condoning these. Like we recognize their problematic nature. I will of course bring that up with a couple of my picks, and to not judge us harshly for that. I think that we can kind of like something but also recognize that it's problematic and not kind of be on its side. So does that make sense? Do you have anything to add?
No, it's interesting because I think with this list, the toxicity kind of led my thinking, and I didn't tend to keep at the forefront of my mind whether or not I enjoyed them. Barring my top two. My top two I absolutely enjoyed. But the other ones I had to kind of mull over and really kind of define a if they could be classified as toxic, and also like 'cause we actually talked about this quite a bit in terms of how we define it. Like, are we saying it's toxic just because it ended, or was it a case of like we make a great couple that should not be a good couple, or like they're not a good couple but we enjoy them being together?
Yeah.
There's a lot of back and forth on that, and I think it's interesting because it kind of reveals that in the romance genre, there are a lot of different avenues that I think some people who can be honestly, I think who can be kind of prudish, be like, you're not allowed to like this because, now I'm not talking about crimes, but like, like certain characters drive the drama being in certain kinds of ways. And I think that like some people can be a little judgmental over that. And I think that this is a fun exercise to kind of explore how certain characters kind of make you feel and kind of reconsider romance in different ways, even if at the end of the day you kind of decide that is wrong.
Yeah.
So cancellation may very well be coming down the tunnel by the end of this episode's recording.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. I mean, I'll have to explain myself on some of those. So, yes, I guess I will start off and gonna pull up numero 5. And okay, can we see this? Well, as I was rewatching this film, actually, I thought to myself, whoops, you could make a joke about foot fetishes because of
I was just
this.
about to.
And because of this particular this particular image. So this comes from the Garden of Words, Koto Noha no Niwa, and it is a 2013 anime film that's based on a manga written by Makoto Shinkai and illustrated by Midori Motohashi. So
Oh.
the film focuses on Takeo Akazuki, an aspiring 15-year-old shoemaker, and Yukari Yukino, a mysterious 27-year-old woman. Uh, they keep meeting each other at Shinjuku Gyoen National Garden on rainy mornings. He skips his morning class to design shoes whenever it's raining. He makes a pact with himself. And Yukari is avoiding work because of some personal problems, which we actually find out later on in her professional life. She tells nothing about herself to the kid, including her name. And when Takao opens up to her, sharing his passion for shoes by offering to make a pair of her, she kind of starts to open up as well. Her identity comes to light because we find out that she was actually a teacher at the very same school as he attends, but I think maybe two classes above because they say upperclassmen. And she was actually bullied by some female students and like basically left because I guess a boyfriend of one of the girls said that this teacher was hot. And then a rumor kind of went that maybe there was like some relationship between her and that kid. But as far as we know, it's not true. And I think given what we see in this film, that's not true because she doesn't do anything with Takao. So yeah, it's just, I mean, it's a 45-minute film and the manga is short as well. It's just one volume. We just see this relationship only in these rainy days. And then at one point there's this huge downpour and they end up at her apartment and they have dinner and they both like confess inwardly that it's the happiest that they've ever been because they both have been having various issues. And he actually confesses his love for her, but she says, "My name is Miss da da da." So she very much puts there's like a line there and he runs out and ends up being very angry and saying, "I take it back. I hate you." And then there's just a confession on her side. I know. Well, because he's 15 years old. There's a confession on her side, just that he really helped her kind of move past and not be as lonely as she was and get past those professional problems. And she's ending up moving. And he finishes the shoes for her. She's already moved on. And the hope is that they meet again once he has graduated. He wants to be a cobbler. And I would say so the reason why I don't know if I would technically call it toxic, but obviously it's problematic given the age gap 15 and 27, though, any fans of Call Me by Your Name shouldn't be judging because that was 17 and 36, I think. Yeah. Nothing happens, obviously. You also have the potential for a teacher student thing, which kind of that gives me it skeeves me out, but it really is very beautiful. And I'm glad that they don't even like push up against the line. There's really like nothing that happens between them, but the hope that there could be something more. So I do recognize it's problematic nature, obviously. But I do like this as a potential couple, and I hope that, if there were the Garden of Words part two, which there won't be, that they do find each other when he is older and of age. Plus, I don't actually know what of age would be in Japan. I'm sure it's above 15, but I know that laws in different countries are different. So that's my number 5 pick.
Did you see this short film with Harold?
I did not. No, this was something I don't remember how I came upon this, and I saw it several years ago and thought it was so beautiful that I ended up buying the manga so that I could read the source material. So no, this was something that I discovered on my own, perhaps. Sometimes I used to just Google anime that were kind of slice of life or films and stuff that were highly recommended. And I think this popped up on one of those lists, which is why I gave it a shot.
Yeah, I've not heard of this at all, but I have heard of. You said it was animated by Makoto Shinkai.
The manga was written by Makoto
The manga
Shinkai.
was written by, yes, I'm
Yeah.
familiar with that mangaka. It sounds rather sweet. Of course, this would be sweet and not twisted. We have so many twisted kinds of romance manga at our store that like I'll see
Yeah.
if this comes across. It's a really nice, it's a really lovely image.
Yeah.
Um, and I it actually kind of recalls something that like I don't have on my list, but like maybe as an honorable mention, would I have had a kind of like age gap relationship? And I don't even know because like even though like it's definitely like toxic in terms of like being problematic, it
Yeah.
might be a little too much for me in terms of like the implications. Um, but this stuff, and also it comes from like a Twisted show. But if nothing else, this works as a recommendation. It's a lovely image. It sounds like an intriguing story. And I'm sure you related to teacher in regards to being a female teacher and kind of like
Yeah.
going through like what being te I won't say that you're being teased, but like just like empathizing with her and her stuff.
Yeah, the bullying, yeah, students, period, can be cruel, female students very much so. And then also, I think just the how we need to be very cautious. I think this is true of all teachers, cautious when you are with students of the opposite sex, and like everything should be above board. Because I that just seemed to have spun out of control just because that one comment, and then it got out of there. But imagine if like he had an after school conference with her, like what would that have looked like? So, and unfortunately, we have actual teachers that do prey on students. And it seems like we're in the, I shouldn't say the season of, I feel like, because I just reread Carol, and then we both watched May December just in separate occasions. So it seems like we're in the kind of age gap, though May December was very much a not good situation based off of a true story. But yes, so I feel like all of that predatory nature is missing from this, which is great, which is why I'm not too embarrassed or shamed by by choosing that.
Not yet, anyway.
Not yet,
That's a true
anyway.
story.
Yeah.
Did you like the anime more than the manga, or did one have like virtues over the other?
Um, I don't know. I recall it's been a while since I've read the manga. I think that there is like a bonus where they actually do. He like meets her again to give her the shoes. So that's nice to have kind of an epilogue there. But maybe I mean the anime is just so beautiful, and with manga, you have black and white, so to see all the color tones in the anime, I might push me to choose that one a little bit more.
Beautiful. It sounds beautiful, not hardly. And I don't think I'm toxic when I see this image, so it makes me want to investigate further.
Oh, well, I was I mean, all of my images, I don't think I chose like a toxic one, but yeah. Yeah, here you see, because he really wanted to try to build shoes for somebody, and so she offers her own feet so that he can have like a model for it. So that's what it is. But as I was rewatching, I thought, oh boy, we can dispense with the all the foot fetish jokes and things like that. So
Could
okay.
not help yourself.
Yeah, I know. Okay, can't wait. What's your number five?
Yes. What embarrassed. So to share an image,
Sure.
like, where do I go? Which prompts do I do to share the
So
image?
you can either share screen, which is at the bottom of your thing. It might require my permission, or unless it will let you. One participant. Are you allowed to?
Share screen. Okie dokie.
And then it will ask you which image or which window it wants you to choose. So be sure the image is up.
I thought I just had it. Then like it, oh, then it like went to a different image. Here we go.
Oh boy.
Yes. Are you familiar with this?
I do know of them. I feel like I've seen some episodes with them. So I would agree that yes, a couple that probably shouldn't be together.
Oh, absolutely not. No, 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 no. There's nothing sweet about this at all. Yes, I'm glad that this elicited such a fun response from you. So, for those of you who are listening, for my number five, it is Michael Scott and his boss, Jan Levison from The Office. This is, I would say, the worst relationship in the entirety of The Office. And it's not, and there's some competition, but I think this one kind of clears it. The Office, if you've not seen it, is a kind of like mockumentary about a paper company, and the boss of the paper company, Michael Scott, as played by Steve Carell, is kind of a dope. He's often well-meaning, but also very kind of cartoonishly insecure and kind of wacky and goofy. and his boss Jan Levinson, his kind of like superior from the CEO branch, is often very fatigued by his antics. He's just to kind of come down and kind of clean up his mess and stuff like that. And she doesn't really like him because he's kind of dumb. Um, but I believe in the second season they begin a romance that begins rather illicitly and is inadvertently leaked by Michael himself. They get together, I think, over a weekend, and they went to some sort of resort where she was like bathing topless, and he took a picture of it, and he was going to show it to a friend, which he shouldn't have done, but he accidentally sent it to people in the office.
Oh no.
Um, which prompted her to kind of come down to the branch and kind of confront him. Although she kind of like she admits, I talked to my therapist, and she says I need to stay away from things that are bad for me. And she intended on breaking up with him, but they end up staying together. Um, and this gets leaked inadvertently again to the higher ups. There was a man up for a promotion who was denied, and he says in front of their bosses, "I should have slept with you, and maybe I would have gotten the promotion." And like there's a silent beat of her being shocked, and then her superior giving her a very serious like, "What did he just say?" And then you cut to like Steve Carell, who's just very much like sheepishly like just staring at the wall. Um, and it's a very sordid relationship. It's funny because like as kind of wacky and somewhat lousy as Michael Scott is, Janet Levinson is much more of a broken person, and this is kind of unveiled throughout the show. Um, to the point where like he feels really kind of like pressured and torn down and insecure in the relationship. There's one episode where he takes all of the female employees out shopping at the mall, um, and he kind of like confides in them his relationship with Jan, and he mentioned something like um, oh yeah, Jan likes to try some things in the bedroom or whatever, and like oh yeah, a lot of people do role play, and he's like yeah, but I just don't think I can fit the schoolgirl dress anymore, and everyone was like what? Um, just really twisted stuff. There's an episode where they have a dinner party and they kind of invite some of the other couples in the branch, and they just lose their minds over the entire thing. It's the most awkward dinner party in recorded history. Um, like they get into like these very barely concealed fights. They reveal way too much personal information. He essentially sleeps on a cat's bed at the foot of her bed in the room. Um, like he reveals that he's had like 3 vasectomies at her whims and stuff like that. It's
3?
kind of terrible. Yeah, I
Why
have
is
the
one
audio
not
clip.
enough?
I have the audio clip that explains it. Um,
Okay. Was he reversing them without her knowing?
no, she knew that he was reversing them. He keeps on going snip snap snip snap.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. The female workers at the Under Mifflin branch convince him to break up with her, and so he's committed to doing that. And then she kind of shows up with like breast implants, and he kind of like walks back into the room. He's like, "Oh, we're gonna stay together," which kind of locks him into this really toxic relationship. And I think it's after the dinner party where they kind of unceremoniously break up, and he always wanted to have children. He always wanted to be a family man, kind of, be a husband and father. And she shows up later in the show, um, uh, pregnant. I think she is. I think she's either pregnant or has a kid. And he's like really excited. And it's just, oh no, no, it's not yours. And then he says, one of the funniest lines: "You cheated on me when I specifically asked you not to." But she reveals that she went to a sperm donor and is raising a child on her own, and that was definitely like kind of like that line to the relationship. And long story short, he does find happiness. Like he finds somebody who's a much better partner for him, and they get married and leave the show, and he ends up having kids in the series finale. So there is a happy ending, but that happy ending does not include these two together. This is, I think, the textbook definition of a toxic relationship. That is also very funny.
Yeah, I won't be able to speak too much on it, but I feel like just their relationship outside of being in a relationship, the boss and underling, and how she I just don't know. When I looked at her and her reactions to him, I'm like, how did you even get together with this this man. It seems like so unbelievable, but yeah. Do you feel like what did she see in him? Was it something that kind of was complimentary to her or something that was able to help her get out of her because you said that she kind of had her own personal struggles. What do you think it was about him that drew him to her
Well,
or drew
something
her
that
to him?
is kind of revealed in this series is that as kind of dopey of a guy that Michael Scott is, he actually is genuinely a very good salesperson. But he's actually like he's not great at being a boss, but he's good at being a salesman. And he and her and then another paper company guy. Forget the exact context, but they were at a Chili's having kind of like a business dinner, and he was essentially selling the company, selling the idea of the company and basically making a deal. And he was rather savvy with it, and she was impressed by his business savviness. And so that at the end of that episode, when they're successful, is when she kisses him,
Mm,
and that whole thing kind of avalanches. And I think you know there's implications of like she has like control issues. She's definitely a dominant. Um uh and there's a lot of psychological things going on. I mean, a lot of it's meant for comedy. It's not terribly a serious. This is not the romance that viewers were meant to be emotionally invested in. It's kind of just a witness and as a cautionary example. But I believe that's kind of like illustrated reasons why is that like she was sort of attracted by somebody. There was something that she found attractive towards him, but it was also like something that she should have really known better than to get involved with.
I would say so, yeah. I mean, once you say that he was apparently wearing schoolgirl outfits, I totally got the dominance of this vibe from it. Yeah, even from her like appearances, I could tell like, oh, that's total top energy right there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The show doesn't get, there's nothing's explicit shown, but just a lot of it's just kind of put into your head. It's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I put some solid effort into like kind of coming up with like just the right list. And when I kind of came across this with some help, it's like a light bulb went off. It's like, oh, I gotta put them on the list. Very easy.
Anything else for your number 5?
I will have more to say as the list goes on, but I think
Okay.
this is I would like to think this is a strong start off my list.
Okay. You just have to quit sharing.
Stop share. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Now for my here is my number 4. I had trouble where to place this, to be honest. I feel like it's a bit low, but given my passion for the other ones, I think this is where it is. So this
It's as
image
non-nerdy as possible.
I know. This image is the meeting of Dido and Aeneas by Sir Nathaniel Dance Holland, painted in 1766. And so the couple that I do like together, but they should not be together and they don't end up together. Maybe it's actually for the best. So it's a very like, I have to think about it a lot. Is Dido and Aeneas from Virgil's Aeneid, which was written between 29 and 19 BC. So you probably knew that there was going to be some sort of classics thing on here. So the story of, if you don't know who Aeneas is, he is one of the few remaining Trojans from the sack of Troy. And he's visited by his mother and the ghost of Hector and told to take these remnants of Trojans, take the household gods, and you need to go found a new Troy, which will end up being his descendants will found Rome. He'll land in Italy, Latium at the time, but then his descendants will found Rome. So he's unfortunately hated by Juno. Juno has some issues. She has rights to these issues. This one in particular is just because he's a Trojan. But there are a couple reasons, but let's just say he's a Trojan. And the Paris thing, Paris choosing Aphrodite or Venus over Juno, and so he's tossed about by her, and they go to different places, and it's not where they need to go. They do end up landing in Carthage, and before they get there, he is told by Mercury, who comes to visit him, about the queen there, who is Dido. And Dido by herself is an amazing character. It's just unfortunately when she meets this guy and the gods, it just goes downhill. So she was Queen of Phoenicia, and her brother killed her husband. Out of greed, I feel like there might be some like other sinister things going on there, but she loved her husband dearly and she made a vow that she would never marry again. So she flees with some Phoenicians as well as her sister, and they go to Carthage, which is northeastern. Let's just
Please
say
don't
it's
ask me.
North Africa. It's North Africa. We'll just go with that. And so some kings come and she wants some land. And of course, they want to marry her. And she's like, no, no, no. So they say, well, we'll give you land, as much land as will be covered by this bull skin, which would not be a lot because a bull skin. Okay. So she's very smart and she cuts the bull skin into strips and she's able to have, which was, I mean, she followed the directions and has this great kingdom. So by the time Aeneas finds her after finding out this backstory, she's suspicious because she doesn't know who he is. She's worried about her brother coming and finding her. And she ends up finding out, oh, he's a Trojan and listens to his story. And unfortunately, Venus and Juno kind of come together and decide that they're going to have these two fall in love for various reasons. Juno, so that it was his journey will be delayed, and then Venus, so that Dido will just be welcoming and hospitable to him. And so she falls in love with him as he's telling his woes, and everything seems okay, like they're loving each other. But in the midst of all that, she kind of forgets her queenly duties because the city was starting to be built, and now like people aren't doing their jobs because there's not really anyone telling them what to do. And then he is visited again by Mercury and is basically told to get out of there because why is he still there? He needs to found Rome. And he gets really scared and he says, I'm so sorry, bye Felicia, and gets he leaves her and she like is distraught, kind of has this manic state about her, is begging him to stay, sends her sister to beg him. And he said, you know, it's the will of the gods, it's not me. And so he leaves, and then she basically is like, well, I'm gonna go kill myself. So she kills, I should have said that there was suicide also, unaliving, as Princess Week says. She gets all this stuff that reminds her of him, so like a breakup box, and puts it on this bed and then stabs herself. And yeah, basically creates her own funeral pyre so that her sister doesn't have to do anything. And a very beautiful ending to her life. Her sister catches her last breath, so she was like finally able to make it there. um and unfortunately her sister's all by herself. And then Juno, because she like sympathizes for this, and Juno, one of Juno's cities that she kind of helps found or is a patron goddess of, is Carthage. She sends Iris, who is the goddess of the rainbow, to cut a lock of hair from her so that her soul can be released to the underworld, because their belief is that if they die by unaliving, that they're not allowed to cross over. So she's able to help her through. We do see, because she felt really bad about breaking that vow as well, and her sister kind of convinces her. But we do see later on, because that was mostly happening in book 4. In book 6, when Aeneas has to travel to the underworld, he actually sees Dido again and kind of chases after her. But we see beautifully that she is actually with her husband again. So I do love I mean, I really love Dido. I hate what happens to her. And I love the idea of these two people together, just like these two leaders. And I feel like they can be very complementary to each other. But the fact that they just kind of forget everything, especially her forgetting everything about the city and trying to, you know, protect it as well as build it up, because of this, and she forgets her vow to her husband. Obviously the goddesses had something to do with all of this, but it's something that should not be. For story purposes, obviously it kind of has to happen, and then also because Dido in a way represents Cleopatra and Aeneas is supposed to be representative of Augustus, you also have that kind of added layer because like, oh, you know, Augustus kind of got rid of Cleopatra and Antony and everything. But so there's like lots of going on. But I always love getting to that book, but also like dread it because I'm like, oh, I know what's happening. So there had to be a classics one in there. But it's just hard. Yeah, I love to see them together, but they should be together. Yeah.
You say you love getting to this part. How often do you reread this story?
Well, because I was teaching AP Latin and it was on the curriculum every year. So I had
Mm.
read this, yeah, translated it, 10 times and reread, yeah, I don't reread the Aeneid in English every year. I'm sure maybe some Latin teachers would be like, "How dare you?" But yeah, so I've reread it a couple times. But I think about her a lot. And I went to see Shakespeare did a no, he did Mark Antony. I did see a Dido play actually, which was really interesting, kind of have her perspective on things.
I was gonna ask if there was a media interpretation of these characters in this romance that you've seen and either liked or love to hate.
Yeah, so I have seen that play, which I did enjoy. There's an opera, but I'm not like a huge fan of opera. I wouldn't say I'm a fan of opera at all, though I haven't had much experience with it, so maybe I should give it a shot. But those would be like the two primary things that I've seen. I feel like the Aeneid would be a great film adaptation that they could potentially do, maybe a bit better than Troy, like try a bit more, and it would be awesome to see what she would look like. I mean, in this painting, she looks white, and Dido would most likely be black, or at least of darker visage because she is from Phoenicia and then, of course, North Africa. So I feel like it would be a compelling story, though I am not objective because I do love the Aeneid.
Interesting. I would love to talk to you about the film Troy. Maybe we can do an episode, give me
I
commentary.
actually really like that film. It does
Okay.
it's not super accurate and there are some problematic things that go on, but yes, I would love to talk about that film with you.
The new one will know your name. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, I saw that in college actually. That was a viewing. Maybe it was an art. Gosh, was it an art history? Yeah, that's a tangent. Um, the toxicity of it, like you said that you hate how Dido ends up,
Yeah.
but those kinds of like really, you know, that kind of Romeo Juliet-esque extreme, does that have any influence in your admiration for it, or is it kind of despite that?
I think it's despite that. Yeah, I don't really want to see these people die. I would love a happy ending. So to have, Romeo and Juliet not making it out, or Pyramus and Thisbe, that was a sad situation as well, which Romeo and Juliet's based off of. Yeah, I would love the character, even if Aeneas left, but she had not gone into such a frenzy and did not unalive herself because she still had Anna. So I feel like you could have ruled well together as sisters, and I feel like that could have been very beautiful. I feel like she didn't need to do this. She didn't need to do it because of a man.
Well, that yes, I think that like I can't remember the last time I've seen a romance where somebody's like, I can't take this, I might as well die.
Yeah,
Because I think at this point people were trying to like find it ridiculous and laugh at it.
yeah.
But you
But
know,
I feel like though it happens. I think with teenagers, well, we know, that the suicide rate is rather high with teenagers for a variety of reasons. But I think because
yeah.
things are so heightened with their emotions, that's certainly maybe a demographic that would experience that sort of thing. That my boyfriend broke up with me or my girlfriend broke up with me. I what's the point in living kind of thing. So I feel like there is some realism in there, but maybe as adults, yeah, we might not. We kind of squint our eyes at it.
Mm, that's true. Do you know who the artist is behind that image that you shared?
Yes, it is
It's not Caravaggio.
Sir Nathaniel Dance Holland.
Oh, okay, 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 okay. Yeah, I wasn't. You were far more versed in this than I am, but I do remember when I was taking art history classes, I really got into Caravaggio,
Oh
and that
yeah,
kind of recalled that a bit.
yeah,
But never I mind.
yeah.
Um,
Okay,
yes.
yeah, that's my
I don't
number
know why I didn't
four.
anticipate that.
Oh
Yes,
well,
number
yeah.
four.
Who knows which one? I think there's only one that you've anticipated in our conversations. So
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, you'll know by the screams.
yeah, okay.
Okay. See if I can do this again. I'm pushing share screen. And I think I'll do this because I have a couple of images. Can you see? What do you see?
I see. It looks like Foggy. Foggy
Yeah, there you
Nelson.
go. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
It's like, is that not
Yes.
his name? I guess that's Matt. Oh, is it Matt and Heather Glenn? Oh, who
Yes.
is it?
Yes.
Oh no. Okay.
Absolutely. I was about to say Matt Murdock and fucking Nelson, but you got it right in one. Um, my number four is Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil, the man without fear. And one of his many dead girlfriends, Heather
Oh
Glenn.
my gosh.
Uh, golly, like when I said a light bulb went off when I thought about my number five, this was like a bomb went off when I thought about this one. Um, and when I first, Daredevil, have you read?
How much Daredevil have I read? I would
Yeah,
say
out of
when
curiosity.
you Google, is that what you asked?
Hmm.
When you Google like which key Daredevil titles or storylines to read, I would say that I've read those.
Okay, okay, okay.
So if
So you,
she's appear like Frank Miller, right? He wrote some of them.
yeah,
Is that true? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I don't know that I've encountered Heather Glenn aside from you and Josh talking about her.
Well, honestly, I had not read her earlier stuff prior to the Miller run until getting ready for this podcast. Um, that being said, when I first really started reading Daredevil, it was the issues in which Matt and Heather were together. Um, and this is just one of the worst relationships I've ever seen. So, Heather Glenn was a society girl. She was rich. She was the daughter of an industrialist who was, like she was kind of like, the princess of the town. And everywhere she went, there was a party. She was glamorous. She was like socially famous, kind of like a platonic but snobbier idea of Mary Jane Watson in a way. Like she wasn't a model, but like, guys either wanted her riches or they wanted to be her, take her around. And she, I'm not going to get too much into it because she actually lasts quite a bit in the comics, but she eventually falls in with Matt Murdock, who is a mess of a man. And um, they get together, Matt Murdock and Heather Glenn, they're dating. Um, her father was eventually taken, he was controlled by the Purple Man,
Mm,
Kilgrave. And uh, under the control of the Purple Man, he kidnapped uh, one of Daredevil's secretaries. But I believe her name was Debbie Blake. Maybe getting that name wrong. But essentially, her father had committed crimes while under the control of the Purple Man, but people at large did not know that. Daredevil knew that. He could not prove that in a court of law. He was actually really anxious about it. So he was planning to tell Heather, "Look, I'm Daredevil, and this is how I know your father's innocent." And so while he's over at her apartment in the costume with the mask off, he answers a phone in which he learns that like while her father was in jail for crimes under the Purple Man, Heather's father killed himself. And
mm,
so Heather just freaks out, obviously, and blames Matt. Says it's his fault. Eventually, she understands that her father was under mind control and such like that, and she eventually gets back together with Matt, now knowing that he's Daredevil and hoping to be a lot more open with him. The problem is, and this can kind of get into a conversation we can have about the whole secret identity thing. So he was never really interested in Matt being Daredevil. Um, which we can get to later on in this episode. But she didn't really take a lot of that very seriously. Like, and I'm primarily citing the Frank Miller issues, in which there are so many times where Matt is either preoccupied with the goings on about the Kingpin, Bullseye, or Elektra. There's one storyline where he loses his radar sense. He was hit by an isotopic explosion or something, and then part of his powers had disappeared. And she's like, Matt, darling, put on your tux. We'll be late for the opera or whatever. And he's like, but you don't understand. I've lost my powers. And she's like, doesn't matter. You can just not be Daredevil anymore. Or they'll be at the park, and he's like, I just don't understand it, Heather. What does the kingdom have to gain from this? And she's like, oh, that's boring. Chase me around with an apple or whatever. And you know, like I had to go back and read her earlier appearances, and which are a bit more serious because they involve her father and stuff like that. But once that's kind of like over and done with, you don't really get a good uh read on her character. There is a storyline where she does try to help Matt in his criminal investigation, but it doesn't go very far because like she is kind of not really in the crime fighting world. Um, and it really does not help the fact that Elektra had come back into Matt's life and really complicated his feelings by being an assassin. So they're on opposite sides of the law. So by that point, Matt's not paying attention to her at all. Um, and after Elektra dies, that's when this relationship is on like a doomsday clock. Because when Elektra dies, by that time, Heather's father's company, she's inherited it, so she's in control of the company, and she's being taken advantage of by a lot of other businessmen. The company's on its way towards bankruptcy, and these are the businessmen are saying you should just, give up the remaining bits of the company. You're not fit for this job, and she's even tricked into signing over towards a company that has involved with criminal exploits. And so she tells Matt, who's also a lawyer, like I didn't know that they tricked me into doing this. And Matt says, "Well, listen, you can claim total ignorance, talk about your total incompetence and inexperience as a CEO, and I'm sure it'll be all right. Also, you should marry me because life as a housewife is far more suited for you than somebody who's actually in charge of a company." This is like not meant to be a kind of trick or plan or whatever. He's genuinely like holding over the prospect of marriage towards a much more agency-filled life of a CEO. And she recognizes this, and so does Foggy. Everyone's like, "What is wrong with you?" So she's trying to do everything she can to hold on to the company, but she's really backed into a legal corner, and so she is basically admits defeat and says that basically to make sure I don't, end up in jail or bankrupt or worse, I'll marry you. Which is what you see on this image here. Uh, Foggy witnesses this, understands how awful it is, and so he goes to Matt's former girlfriend, Black Widow, and says, "You were forging letters." And so Natasha Romanoff, the Black Widow, forges letters to both Matt and Heather separately, where where the two say, "I don't want to see you anymore. I break up." And neither of them learns the truth until it's too late, because once Heather understands that Matt, she's separated from Matt, even a bit before this, when she was facing the legal and business pressures and also the pressures of marriage, she started drinking really heavily.
Mm.
Uh, in fact, she actually makes appearances in the Denny O'Neil run of Iron Man, in which during which Iron Man was really into his alcoholism. And so she kind of fell in with Tony Stark for a little bit. She even tells like a bad guy that Daredevil was Matt Murdock because she was drunk. And so, they're apart for a while. Um, and she kind of like spirals out of the book, but she comes back in a complete alcoholic and starts calling Matt saying, "I'm lonely. I miss you. Life's never been the same, since we broke up. I'm sorry I didn't like the fact you were Daredevil." And because he is busy with other stuff, he really can't acknowledge what he's going through. And even like, taking her call, he missed out on saving a woman's life who was attacked by her like abusive husband. And so he like doesn't want to see her anymore. And then eventually, um, Foggy calls Matt to her apartment, and they learn that she's hung herself. And of course, that's when Matt realizes I should have talked to her about that letter. It was probably forged. Maybe there could have been something I could have done to prevent this. Yes, obviously. But it's a really, really tragic relationship. And honestly, because he never really paid great attention to her because he was always so distracted, and she never really reconciled with the fact that he was Daredevil, these two should never have been together. But because this was the first major Daredevil relationship that I was familiar with when I started reading the character, that is my number four. This horrible list.
Yeah, golly. Yeah, I don't even know what to ask here. Yeah. Is it the writer? I mean, did you feel like, because I'm reading what Matt is saying here and then what you're saying, and that seems out of character from what I know of Matt Murdock. Did you feel like his treatment of her was out of character?
Matt Murdock is like Oliver Queen in that they're both some of my favorite characters. There are instances where they are just straight up not good people.
Okay.
They mean well, but there are times when they do objectively like just horrendous things. And even here, it was really extreme. Like it's always just so shocking that Matt would turn to do this. And you just never believed that he truly loved Heather Glenn. And this is Frank Miller. So, you can
Yeah.
absolutely kind of ponder what was going through his mind at the time.
Yeah.
Like Frank Miller has actually stated that like he doesn't really like romances between superheroes and normal civilians. He thinks that's kind of beneath the hero, which is kind of why he came up with Elektra. Like Elektra really made Heather pale in comparison. And also during the story arc, he brought back the Black Widow, who used to be in with Daredevil as well. And so I think there is a non-0% of sexism in rendering Heather Glenn, but at the same time, I think it makes Matt Murdock a an unfortunately more realistic character. I mean, if you've read the Kevin Smith run, but he has Black Widow discuss his relationships with women, and I remember he has Matt say, "Are you implying that I'm a misogynist?" Which he should have said yes, but I don't necessarily think that he is. I don't think that he's like James Bond or anything like that. But I do think that there are too many instances of Matt Murdock really taking emotional advantage of his paramours, and this is kind of one of many of them. Uh, there's one issue where he's with Black Widow, and then he sees Karen Page for the first time in forever, and he proposes to her on the spot. There is like right in front of Black Widow. Uh, when his life is falling apart during Born Again, he treats Gloriana O'Brien pretty badly. Um, he treats his wife Mila Donovan pretty badly. Like he's probably the worst comic boyfriend I think anyone
Oh no.
can grow up.
Yikes.
Um, but I don't think that like it's like there's so many examples of that, I can't say it's out of character, which is unfortunate. But I do think it makes for compelling storytelling. If anything else, it's weird. It's like I enjoy the toxicity of the character over the failure of the relationship. And I'm not sure if that even makes any sense, but it is something that does attract me in terms of like dramatic storytelling.
Who is the best comic book boyfriend, do you think?
The best comic book boyfriend, Superman. You never
That's
you
about,
never did
yeah,
nothing to nobody, to my knowledge. I guess
that's true.
uh hurt Lana Lang's feelings when he told her about his abilities and then left Smallville forever. But you know, they weren't dating, so
And he dated that
that's my
mermaid.
best idea.
Yeah.
The mermaid. I don't know. I have to ask Michael Bailey about that.
Lori something, I think. I could be
Yes,
wrong.
Laura Lamaris. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Well, thanks for this real downer.
I
Right
almost switched
after, I
this
guess,
out.
Dido and Ania, you had two, we had back to back unaliving girlfriends.
We did, yes. I didn't even consider that when we were discussing Dido.
Yeah.
Hey, it's cool, isn't it? I mean, they're fictional characters.
It's cool. You canceled. You canceled. Oh
That was
my God.
fast.
Yeah. Well, anything else on poor Heather Glenn?
Uh, rest in peace. And because she's a fictional character, I'll say she's probably better off
Mm,
than being anywhere near him.
yeah. Okay, now on to my number three. I actually had a lot of trouble. I kept switching two and three, and it came down to, I guess, my passion towards the characters. Maybe also toxicity level. We're gonna get higher as we go. Though my number one is just because I love it so. So my number three is it's Eric, aka the Phantom, and
Ah,
Christine Daae from the Phantom in the Opera. So
specifically the movie version.
This still is from the movie version, yes, where we've got Gerard Butler as the Phantom. So, The Phantom of the Opera, based off of the 1910 novel by Gaston Leroux, the 1986 musical adapted by Andrew Lloyd Webber, which everyone knows, that is now off Broadway. And the 2010, I'll briefly talk about it, I guess. The 2010 musical sequel, Love Never Dies, which is a train wreck, loosely adapted by Andrew Lloyd Webber from Frederick Forsyth's 1999, The Phantom of Manhattan. So there is, man, I'm gonna have to have all these tags of like caution, but the big toxic issue with this is grooming. It's a classic example of it. So Christine and her father are very close. Her mother died when she was young. And when he died, he told her that he would send, quote unquote, an angel of music to her, which I think he probably meant like spiritually, the angel of music will come to you. But she believes it to be the phantom because the phantom tells her so. He says, I am the angel of music. Oh, that's great. So there are some. There is definitely an age gap. In the film, they kind of lessened her age. They de-aged her to 15, but probably 21 when we meet her in the source material in Leroux's novel. And when she would have met Eric, probably 10 to 12. So that this is why we've kind of have this grooming situation. He does help her. I mean, she is able to become kind of the belle of the ball and the lead opera singer, especially after Carlotta becomes ill and kind of pushes her forward. But obviously, he murders people. So he does become violent when he doesn't get his way. He's very jealous. When Raoul, her childhood sweetheart, returns and he's like, I want to be with Christine. Now the Phantom's got to get rid of Raoul. The townspeople, which really in the opera, are trying to get rid of this guy. He ends up making it out. Now, I just don't like, let me just say that I don't like Raoul. Raoul has always annoyed me. Yes, there's a great duet between the two of them, but I just would prefer her to be with the Phantom, even though it's not a good idea. I will say that in this train wreck of a sequel, Love Never Dies, we find out that before she marries Raoul, she returns to find Eric. They have sex and she actually becomes pregnant. And her son, Gustav, is the Phantom's, even though Raoul believes it to be his son. Later on, actually, she'll be killed off by her accidentally by her best friend Meg. So you should watch. I will promote Lindsay Ellis's video essay on
I've
Love
seen
Never
those,
Dies.
yes.
Yes, it's nuts. It is nuts.
Yes.
So yeah, I don't know. I just find it I find the pairing, I find him sexy. I let's just put it out there. I think like all their musical numbers is from the very beginning, very sensual, though obviously there's like kind of this overtone of like what's he doing to her, where she like faints and everything, and also obviously the grooming. So really on paper we absolutely should not, but it is just one of those that kind of the romantic aspect in the music and everything just always leads me to this particular pairing. I actually recently saw it before it closed and took a friend who had seen it, Ellie. She had seen it before. It's her favorite musical. And then also with Claire, who had never seen it. And Ellie went to the bathroom because we went to Junior's afterwards to get cheesecake. And Claire was like, you know, she did not like it basically. And I said, if you parse this musical out, like nothing really happens and Christine has like no agency whatsoever. So it's like actually really bad. So it's one of these things that's like I recognize all of its problematic things and that this is just not good, but I do love it and I think it's hot as to quote Shagalicious. So so this is my number 3. Please don't cancel me.
I love knowing that like you love a bad boy.
I know, not many of them, but this guy. Yeah. Just hold your hand at the level of your eye. There's another connection to Heather Glenn. Had you
Yes, no,
have any experience with Phantom?
Honestly, most pretty much all of my experience with him is Lindsay Ellis talking about it. Like, did you ever listen to their podcast,
I
Musical
have not.
Explaining, I think it's called, or Music Explaining? Because it started out with her and her friend Kava Taharian, and then it went on, and then it was hosted by Kava Taharian and their mutual friend Angela Meehan, who co-writes Lindsay Ellis's videos. And Angela Meehan is just such a gleeful Phantom of the Opera fan. She does almost every episode's conversation. And I what I like about it is that they're so like unashamedly into this, much like kind of like the groans of their male co-host. And so I feel like I've gotten a lot of the understanding that like, that this really spoke to a lot of young women or young girls when they kind of got into the story. I've not seen the movie and I've not seen the musical, but I feel like I know the story enough. And I like the idea of, I feel that like many romances that have sort of a bad boy, for lack of a better term, romantic character are kind of watered down. Like, in some ways, is that not like Twilight? Like, oh, Edward is the vampire, but he's a good vampire, that kind of thing. And even like 50 Shades of Grey, Christian Grey, like, well, he's a crazy person, but he's not. There's actually worse people out there compared to him. Like, and I like the idea that like this story actually commits to um the variable family opera and him being a killer, but like it is a kind of like extreme emotion kind of time. Like, this image is great, just the kind of just looking at it, and he has that sort of like that sort of that kind of. I mean, it's so it's so influential, kind of masked, beloved villain, but I don't know. It's because it's I appreciate how it strikes people, and I just haven't gotten around to seeing it myself, but I have been very amused by the discourse over Love Never Dies, and how just betrayed the fan base was, and how they've explained how it kind of like, destroys a lot of the characters. But yeah, it's interesting because like in terms of like toxicity, like I don't know if many of my lists, except for my next one, includes like bad boys or bad girls. But I think those just make romances a lot more fun. And I
Right.
kind of wish I thought a little bit more about it. And I like this entry quite a bit. It's fun to me.
Yeah. I guess I'm less concerned about even though he does kill people. I guess I'm less concerned about that than, like, the grooming aspect of it, just because I worry about a young girl, and an older man. It is
Sure.
nothing as, like, said, but I feel like he never crossed any line. I feel like when she comes of age, like now he's kind of making his intentions known, but I don't think that. But of course, maybe the musical just didn't get into it. It is interesting how people they do love it. I recall Princess Weeks talking about she was like with a group of girlfriends and they were chatting about this and then some like random person I guess who was also there stopped the conversation was like but you realize that's hella problematic right and they all rolled their eyes as if they didn't realize that yes of course it is problematic so I feel like everyone recognizes that it's not probably the best couple but yeah I think some people
My
like
list is going to
Raoul.
get only more problematic from here. It's going to ranch up to more problematic. I'll tell
I
you that
mean,
right
number
now.
2 is if I'm gonna get canceled, it's over my number 2, quite honestly. So, we'll see what happens. But, yeah, no, I'm so sorry. I just find the find the Phantom very attractive.
Is the Phantom in the story? I understand that he's the romantic male character, but also is he the veritable villain? Like, is he the villain of the story?
Yeah, because he blackmails, like, the producers so that, to put on his own musical so that, Christine is the lead and, yeah, tries to get rid of Raoul. Yeah. Yes, he is the villain. He's the villain and the antagonist.
Do you tend to find yourselves attract? Do you think that like are there villains that you find are hot?
Um, well, uh, And I was thinking to myself, like,
Sounds like a
what
yes to me.
villains are hot? I feel like yes, I don't typically go that I mean, yes, Kylo Ren, he's an attractive man. Um, Anakin Skywalker, like so there would be that sort of thing. At the end of Fast X, I think that Alan Richson is 10,
That
10
guy is
out of 10.
huge.
He's a very large man. I was talking about that with my mom, actually. She's like, Do you think that that's natural?" I'm like, "I think so,
Hell
but
no.
you don't think so at
Hell no.
all. You don't think that someone could beef up that much naturally?"
I think that he was this is such a tangent,
I know.
but like I think that he was absolutely natural in Smallville. I understand that he was in some sort of like teen football show for a while. Um and I think that like he was probably on some sort of like supplements and type stuff like that. But Reacher, it was like a Pokemon evolution. Like and
Between
once you
1
get to
and
the
2, yeah.
and Fast X, I'm sorry. There's no godly way that's natural. I mean, you can eat, but like
Ugh,
he looks like a Bane action figure.
yeah.
I don't think I knew that he was in the movie, but when he showed up in that movie, I was like, what
Yeah.
happened to him? It
Yeah,
was basically the
basically
same
all
way
yeah. All the villains in
I
the Fast
yeah.
series I do find attractive. And you know that I have a crush on, the villains, plural, in Die Another Day. So maybe I do tend towards tend towards villainous people. I didn't think that of myself, but now you've awakened something inside of me.
Okay, bit of a
There was
we're
this
back.
a delay. Are you okay?
Oh yeah, no, just a little bit with the Wi-Fi. You can hear me okay?
I can, yes.
Yes, yes. Face and Rosamund Pike and uh Gustav Graves. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
a sexy trio.
Oh, yeah. Oh man, well that's all I have to say about the Phantom. Let me know your thoughts, friends. I would love to hear Professor Coca's thoughts on this couple, whether she and her daughter, because I did say there's going to be a musical theater, whether they prefer Phantom and Christine or Raoul and Christine, and we'll see if we can remain friends.
Was
But
it
you're
Raoul played by Patrick Wilson?
yes, isn't that crazy? It's been a long time since I've seen this adaptation. I kind of want to see it again, especially after I was searching for images. But oh boy, number 3 for
My number.
you. Ah. Whoa.
What else could it be?
Whoa. What else could it be?
Um, Peter Parker, aka the amazing or the spectacular Spider-Man, and Felicia Hardy, aka the Black Cat.
Oh yeah.
Um, I think this applies across multiple versions. um in various iterations of these characters. Like again, I actually spent like the last few hours reading a lot of their stuff because the bulk of their relationship is in the 80s, and I'm not terribly familiar with late 80s Spider-Man until very recently. And it's really good stuff, and it's really crazy stuff. So I'm not much to Josh's chagrin because he was helping me out with this, but like I'm not going to get too much into the weeds of that, although I will summarize some of it. But basically, Spider-Man has an interesting like 31 flavors of girlfriends throughout his history. You have the first love in Betty Brant. You have the one true love, like the vanilla angel, the heiress to his Cloud Strife in Gwen Stacy. You have the wifey, the first girl is last girl in Mary Jane Watson, because essentially they lived next to each other. And you have the bad girl in the Black Cat, because the Black Cat is a cat burglar whom Spider-Man happens across. Just when they first meet, he's hero, she's a villain, and at one point he presumed that she had died, fallen off something, and he couldn't find her. But when she comes up, actually she's attracted to him. He is slow to admit, yes, I am attracted to you. Obviously, I mean, look at you. You have anime hair and you're in a tight leather costume. Um, so they form a relationship, a like crime fighting relationship and a romantic relationship. And Black Cat sees her and Spider-Man as a sort of like adventuring, swashbuckling duo that are kind of better than everybody else that they encounter in New York. And they're making out underwater towers, stuff like that. And she wants to see his apartment and his learn his secret identity. And he's like, "Well, gee, golly gosh, Felicia. I mean, that's a pretty big step, and I don't know if I really want to do that." Yeah, but eventually he falls in love with her and says, "Yes, Felicia Hardy, this is my low rent apartment I can barely afford, for I am Peter Parker." And in a pretty famous scene for Spider-Man fans, Felicia seemingly has a panic attack. "Please put your mask back on. You're so average and normal." Um, which
Mid,
is like,
as the kids say.
yeah, like that's very discouraging. Um, and but Felicia, I love you, and I love you, uh, Spider-Man. And so that was kind of a weird hurdle that they had to get past. Um, Eventually, she's nearly killed by Dr. Octopus, and that, while she's in a coma, Spider-Man's like, even though she doesn't like me and she likes I think that may have happened a little bit before, but like, he realized he loved her when she nearly died, and she realized that she loves Spider-Man and Peter Parker. She gets superpowers that are bad luck powers, but unbeknownst to her, those powers are actually created by the Kingpin, and them being bad luck powers, they gave Spider-Man bad luck. So he was planning to break up with him, but he actually ended up breaking up with her first because he felt that her as a crime fighter was less like she was more comparatively amoral than he was. She'd be a little bit more willing to kill, and they kind of just made him uncomfortable, even though he really loved her. So they break apart. There are moments in which he can't help but be attracted to her, not only physically but just sort of spiritually. It's a kind of Frank Miller theory of superhero romance, in that like he feels really fulfilled with her as Spider-Man. As Peter Parker, he's always missing dates and missing phone calls and getting broken up by people who just don't know what's going on with him. He doesn't have to worry about that with Black Cat. But while he's with her as Spider-Man, can she handle him being Peter Parker? I mean, he does have an aunt, he does have a normal job, he does have normal responsibilities. And so I think this is actually a terrific relationship that just makes is very compelling. And I find myself often rooting for it. Um, it got really toxic when, first of all, when he broke up with her, she was like, "How dare he break up with me? I wanted to break up with him first." And later on, she is attacked by the Sabretooth, but Spider-Man comes to her defense and battles the Sabretooth, and that really sets her off. She did not like him fighting her battles. And so she gets in with the Foreigner, and there's a very long, convoluted conspiracy to basically get revenge on Spider-Man, that he doesn't, even framing him for murder, that he doesn't realize until it's far too late and she's out of the country. And at that time, who he's been confiding with Mary Jane, who didn't like Felicia anyway, he gets married. And so when Black Cat comes back into town and is looking for Spider-Man, presumably to restart the relationship or what, she runs into Venom and gets attacked by Venom. And through that fight with Venom, he learns that he is married to Mary Jane. And of course, she treats Mary Jane pretty badly for a little while, but they eventually become friends. Um, I don't know if you've read there's like a Mark Millar run of Marvel Knights Spider-Man by the Dotsons. Did you ever read that?
Oh, yeah, I think I have the collection actually.
Yeah, yeah, it was in the 2000s. I really like that story, and I read that, and to me, I'm not gonna get into the whole Spider-Man marriage thing, but people say if Spider-Man is married, there can't be any romantic drama. And that story made clear to me that Black Cat has kind of come to terms with the Peter Parker Spider-Man identity, but she also still really loves Peter. And I think that like having unrequited or even complex feelings with somebody who's already in a relationship is primo romantic drama. And I like the idea of a more mature, uh, wiser Black Cat who still does love Peter. I mean, they can be friends, but I like the idea that like there's something unsettled there between them. Um, if you go to other versions like the Spectacular Spider-Man, there was definitely a flirtation between the two of them. But in that version, her father, who was a cat burglar, is actually the same person who murdered Uncle Ben. So they would definitely have tension between them there. in the Insomniac version, I love this DLC because clearly, because in that first game, Peter and MJ had broken up, and you learn in that time after they broke up, that's when Peter got in cahoots with the Black Cat, and so she comes back into his life and is trying to get something, and she says, "Oh no, these gangsters have kidnapped my son," and she's being very cautious to who that child's father is, and so Peter is freaking out, like, am I the father? And then he tries to talk to Mary Jane, and she's like, "Oh my God!" and just like hangs up on him. And it's a real big, crazy storyline, but really, he kind of just used him to essentially get what she wants. Black Cat's characterization depends from writer to writer. Sometimes she's a really amoral or straight up immoral person who just uses people, and sometimes she's a fairly conflicted character who ultimately does do the right thing. And I definitely like the latter because it's less misogynist. But I think that this is I know this is a toxic relationship because of how she treats him and how, to be honest, I was having a little bit of trouble because I don't know if Peter necessarily does anything against Felicia. A lot of their problems tend to fall on her actions towards him, but nevertheless, I do really enjoy this relationship. I'm a Peter and MJ guy, but I do enjoy this number two just because I find it to be really, really fascinating, um, from a like conceptual standpoint in regards of like a superhero romance, and whether she's a villain, a hero, or something in between. There's a lot of really cool stories between Spider-Man and the Black Cat.
Yeah, I would agree. I kind of liken this to Batman and Catwoman in a way. Um, just because I think that they're equals, but in a different way than he's an equal with Mary Jane. My first experience with this couple was Spider-Man the animated series, and I remember like I think she leaned in to kiss, and he was like, "No, no," but she only lifted the mask up halfway. I was like, "Whoa, shipper!" And yeah, I think she was in the video game, the first one, because I remember she's like in a tube in a cylinder. You have to go and rescue her. Oh, the
Oh,
PlayStation 1.
yes, yes,
Yeah, she's
yes,
like one of those voiced by Jennifer Hale, I'm pretty sure.
yes.
So I also have enjoyed this, and I've read up to the 80s. So I've read all of their, and that particular scene where she's horrified to see his normie looking face. But I agree. I mean, even though Mary Jane and Peter, I think, would be my OTP, and I have a soft spot for Gwen Stacy and Peter, that I do enjoy seeing these two together. But yeah, I would agree that it might be more bad than good, but there is still some good between the two of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that like she's one of like bad girl characters in comics, especially Marvel comics, are definitely uh victims of sexist writing by men.
Mm.
And I don't think that she's any I think that she falls in line with that. I could not stand how she was written in Brand New Day. That was purely from a male gaze. And I think that like since then she's been written much better. Like under the Nick Spencer run, where she had forgotten who Spider-Man was, and she was heartfeltfully telling Spider-Man that like, I don't like that I don't have this part of me that's missing. And he tells her once again that he's Peter Parker, and they reconcile. And then like in the Zeb Wells run, because he and Mary Jane are split, they kind of get back together for a little bit again. Like I think that she's been written better. Um, but I also know that like, he's had other relationships. Uh, I'm less familiar with this, but there was a presentation at the BGSU Spider-Man conference that talked about Black Cat's bisexuality
Mm.
and the girlfriend that she has in those books. And I don't remember which character. I don't think that's a character that's established in other books, but she has a whole other storyline with that. There's been a number of Black Cat ongoings and such in the last few years. She claims to have a girlfriend in Insomniac Spider-Man 2,
Right.
but I don't know. Like, do you take that straight, or do you think that was another trick?
I do, well, because at the end she fessed up to Peter, that was all kind of to lure him in. But I think she seemed pretty genuine with Miles, and then she radios him or contacts him later and says thank you and doesn't fess up. So I take it to mean that she was concerned about her girlfriend in Paris.
Yeah, I think I do too. Although I didn't note that, like I still was a little suspicious. Like he played me the last time, so I don't know.
Yeah,
But
it's true.
But and I mean, like a new generation of fans, I know really, I think there are people who played the Spider-Man game who weren't longtime Spider-Man fans that were just stunned by Black Cat in this. I've seen it online. Just like, wow, that's Black Cat. Whoa, why isn't she in the movies? Like this particular version has really taken Gen Z Spider-Man fans, male and female, in all the different kinds of ways.
Yeah.
And I do think she's cool. I like her. I like her design, right? With like the mask and like the ponytail and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, I I think that my favorite. I'm trying to think. What is my favorite version of the two of them? Uh, I don't know if I've settled on that. Do you have a favorite? Is the '90s animated
It probably
series
would
your
be,
favorite version
yeah.
of it?
Yeah, the 90s. I remember you like saw her transform into Black Cat because she had like the
Yeah.
super soldier formula, wasn't it, from the Kingpin? Yeah.
Yes.
And then of course first
Yeah.
her relationship with Morbius. Felicia. Felicia. Oh man. No, yeah, I
Wonderful
think
stuff.
nostalgically that would be my favorite incarnation.
Yes. I look forward to like the next good story between the two of them. I'm not read the Evil That Men Do because I don't want to. I recommend the Mark Millar Marvel Knight and Spider-Man. I would recommend the '80s stuff. There's a lot of really interesting stuff in the '80s stuff. Like honestly, like as messed up and convoluted as it was, I was reading that like when the whole Sabretooth thing was interesting. Like she took on like a half a dozen guys and she got beat up badly, but she did win that fight. And it's just like I can't believe what I'm reading here. Um, and I find that like this is a complication of their relationship to be very interesting. Um, and there are some scenes in the late '80s where you have Peter wondering what to do, and you have Mary Jane in one ear and Black Cat in the other ear, literally in the same room. And it's just I'm not asking for an anime harem or anything like that, but this it's kind of like Tenchi Murio in a way, where like one is Ryoko and the other one is Ayaka, but like uh, it makes for an interesting dynamic, and I think that I'm sure you've seen that panel where Peter is in the hospital and MJ and Black Cat roll up. And then Mary Jane is also wearing a Black Cat costume for reasons. And Peter's like, ugh, the dream again. Please go gentle.
Oh my gosh.
It's pretty funny.
Oh
But
boy.
yes,
Well, that's a good
my number
pick. I
three.
approve. You're number
Thank you.
3.
Excellent. Now it's back to you for number two.
Yes, my number 2 is the most dangerous, I would say. So, please don't cancel me. Oh, okay. My number
I'm actually starting to
2.
get scared.
What'd you say? You got scared? My number
Oh, okay.
2 is Scarlett O'Hara and Rhett Butler from the 1936 novel Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell, and of course, adapted into the 1939 feature film, which is where this still is from with Clark Gable and Vivian Lee. And then there's the 1991 sequel novel Scarlet by Alexander Ripley. I've never read that, though I think I do own it. I think my mother found it at a Goodwill, so I have it. And I have seen the miniseries, which I think was on TV adaptation with the beautiful Timothy Dalton as Rhett Butler.
Yeah.
I've seen it only once though, but maybe I should read it now. So this is the one that I know that Gone with the Wind maybe itself should be canceled. They're, just too romanticizing the South and plantations and slavery and the Civil War and the Confederacy. I fully recognize that. But there are definitely aspects of the source material that I do really love. I love Scarlett O'Hara. She has her problems as well, but I just think she's a badass female character. Because of what she's able to do and to survive. And I love her growth just with Melanie in particular. I love Melanie Wilkes as a character. I think she's lovely. And of course, we've got this relationship, which is traumatic, violent. But it's just one of those. I think part of it is just almost being maybe brainwashed by old Hollywood that this is like a couple, the couple that people kind of latch onto. And I kind of feel that. And so this is one of those that I like can't fully explain it. Um, but I just want everyone to know I totally recognize that a lot of things are problematic here, but it's just a couple that I do love. So it gets better in Scarlet because they do come back together, but I just can't speak on it. So I'll just talk about this particular thing. But it starts with porcelain crashing over his head and uh her calling him basically like not a gentleman or a rascal. And it's just like very intense and antagonistic and vitriolic and her
Enemies to lovers?
what? It I would say it's enemies to lovers because Scarlet, for like 9/10 of the novel, is all about Ashley Wilkes. And, this is, of course, what drives, Rhett away. But she has marriages of convenience or marriage to spite other people. So this is just who Scarlett is. I mean, she is I don't know if she was mentioned in that novel, but she would definitely be like the bitch character, or the bitch trope or stereotype. Um
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, Rhett himself is not the best, even though he is flirtatious with her. He abandons her to commit himself to the Old South. He leaves her in hostile territory to join the Confederate Army, and then, of course, he leaves her at the very end in order to search for remnants of the Old South. This is her 3rd
Damn.
marriage. I know. This is yeah. Rhett, or Scarlett, this is her 3rd marriage. Rhett falls in love with Scarlett. It takes her a little bit while to realize that she's in love, uh, with him, but it just never succeeds because of her obsession with Ashley, and Rhett just can't express his feelings, so I guess maybe he's kind of a toxic male as well. Um, trying to think. I mean, there's some mocking, there's constant
Yeah.
arguing, there's definitely cruelty and indifference, almost in order to win her back, maybe kind of play her own game with her. But I would say that you can tell that he's fond if you're kind of sifting through everything because he does support her. He encourages her to shun social customs and even gives her money to start her own business. Now, we do have to mention one of those triggering that we have a rape scene. It's confusing in the film, because I think it plays to tropes at the time of sort of, like a ravishing trope where there's, like, pent-up sexual frustration that explodes in violence. And the fact that after the scene where she's beating on his chest and he carries her up the staircase, the morning after, she's, like, stretching, like, with a smile like the cat that ate the canary. Um and is, like, super happy. So, there's, like, this
Oh god.
yeah, so there's, like, an issue with, well, he was drunk.
No means yes.
Yeah, I know, that was basically it. I mean, he was drunk, and he was very much using, I think, sex and rape to punish Scarlett for her feelings and obsession for Ashley because that's very much what he's kind of picking at right before that particular scene. But then, yeah, the next scene you see her all happy, which I think goes to just Hollywood in general. Like we're not going to play on that, and then Clark Gable is a leading man, so we're also not going to, I think, play on that sort of thing either. Um. So it's not a loving relationship, I think, as we expect to see love. I think that they push each other in bad ways, but I think they also push each other in like ways that um further their own character development and make them stronger because when Rhett abandons Scarlett, after he kind of rescues her from Sherman's burning, that's obviously bad, but because she's left alone, like, gets back to terror and she's like, "Never be hungry again," and she's gotta do everything on her own. So because he leaves her, like, she realizes, "Well, I can't rely on anyone else, I've gotta do it myself." I also think that even though he doesn't express his feelings, you can tell that he is capable of love and a loving person because of how much he cares for his daughter, Bonnie Blue, and how much he dotes upon her. And then Scarlett, who is a selfish character and also vain and conceited. I think that one of my favorite aspects of her character and the story is her development, deciding, Ashley is not this this man for me, but also her love for Melanie, where she's always been antagonistic because of her jealousy since Melanie got to marry Ashley, and being with her on her deathbed and everything, which is something that the beginning Scarlet would never have done. So to see that development and see that, oh, she has the capability of being unselfish and loving towards somebody else, that is showing weakness, I thought was a great character moment for her. But yeah, I mean, lots of damage has been done, obviously, much counseling is needed. But frankly, yeah, I know this is definitely enemies to lovers for me. And yeah, take it what you will, but it's just kind of a classic couple that I feel like many people know about, and I guess have their various opinions on it, but just very like classic Hollywood couple.
Writing my Twitter post right now. I will after today. I will no longer be part of the Backroad Oracle podcast. It's come to my attention that the host Stella enforces a terribly toxic relationship, and I don't want to have anything to do with it. I did not know about this beforehand, but now I do, and I am sorry to everyone.
Oh my gosh, be sure to go on 4chan as well. Oh
I don't
man.
go to 4chan, but like as you describe it, it's like it sounds like the true relationship is Clark Gable in the South. Like he's
Well,
constantly leaving this woman for his baby in the South,
there you go.
in the Confederate cause.
One could very much one could very much read that, yes.
My gosh, that sounds so. In the novel, him raping her, is that depicted more violently? Because I know how you describe the film, but is it
Yeah.
meant to be more of a negative thing, whereas in the film language has it as a more kind of like sweepingly romantic?
It's from what I remember of because I had known of like this is a rape scene from the film, but when I read the book, I was like, wow, this doesn't feel as rapey as I would have imagined it. And it kind of felt like one of those I don't want it, but I do. So it's like very confusing language. Whether Margaret Mitchell was doing that intentionally or not, or this is like the precursor for some of the problematic romances we have today, which might encourage this sort of thing. I don't know. But it does. I wanted to. I just didn't have time to like look up and kind of pull that section to see what it was. But I remember reading at the time, being like, "Wow, this is way more ambiguous than it is in the film."
Interesting. Well, it's because I imagine that the film roots for these two to get together until the very end,
Yeah.
in which he famously says, "Frankly, my dear, I love you. Let's get married." Uh,
Yes. Yeah, he leaves. I mean, they do get back together in Scarlet, but that's all I can remember about that
is that
particular
canon?
novel. Is it canon? I think I'm trying to remember if that was authorized by Margaret Mitchell's estate or not. I feel like it may not have been.
Hmm,
And then there's The Wind Done Gone, which is the black experience of Gone with the Wind. I have not read that. And then there's Rhett Butler's People. Rhett Butler's People is authorized by the estate, but that's kind of pre Scarlett O'Hara.
interesting. Very
Yeah.
interesting. I mean, it sounds like this guy is a villain. From how you have described him to me, I have culturally uncultured
Yeah.
with this. Um, but like in that description, maybe this description requires a lot of like kind of modern cultural hindsight, but it just sounds like he's a pretty bad guy.
Yeah,
Uh,
I feel like it's only with Scarlett though, because if you just saw Rhett with Bonnie Blue, you'd be like, "Oh, what a great father." Or if you saw Rhett with Belle Watling, who is a prostitute, you'd be like, "Oh, well, a guy who doesn't like care about social norms." So it's just something that these two bring out in one another, it seems like.
Interesting. No, it honestly makes me wants to check it out, so I
Yeah.
can be mad at it.
I know.
Um,
Well, yeah, the villain in Gone with the Wind is the Yankees, I'm afraid.
it sounds like what was that Marvel comic I discovered last year that was on the Confederacy side? Uh, That was pretty galling. But
I
that sounds like
bet.
that, like a
Uh,
Confederate apology. Yeah. It sounds
yeah.
fascinating though. It sounds very
Yeah.
interesting.
Please forgive me, but I had owned up to this on quinoa as well. That I recognize that Gone with the Wind should be canceled. So even I think Carolyn Coca said you like you like Gone with the Wind. Oh, she said you've read it, right? And I said yes, and I like it, and she like sighed and rolled her eyes. And I said,
Lose my
I
number.
know. I know. I mean, it's not like I'm reading, be like, there's nothing wrong with it. I recognize everything that's wrong with it. So I'm not going to go promote it like you should read Gone with the Wind. It's just my own personal little thing, just like smut.
That Carolyn Coca thinks she's so big. I'm sure she has like toxic skeletons in her closet.
Maybe she does. Professor, please write in. What sort of toxic toxic couples do you like? She probably likes the purple man because she says that she has a couple future ex-husbands and he's one of them. What's his name?
What? Kilgrave?
Yeah, but the guy who played him.
David Tennant?
Yes. I think she has a crush
Th-
on him.
I have
So
a
we
crush
can
on him
say
too.
that that's a toxic couple, the professor and Kilgrave.
Oh yes, yes. What person can resist?
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll move on. Oh no, I'm scared.
Oh, don't be scared. Don't be scared.
Don't be scared. Okay. Why must you on my show do this?
Why must you presume to not expect this?
It could be
It's been
worse.
far too long.
It could have been Min May and Kyle, in which case I could have destroyed you.
I mean, I don't like that one. My number two is the triumphant return of Lin May on Batgirl to Oracle,
Ugh.
with the toxic pair of um Hikaru Hichiro and Lin May, or Rick Hunter and Lin May, from the series Robotech, or originally titled Superdimensional Fortress Macross. And this is a show that is like near and dear to my heart. All these years later, watching scenes from it still just made me. I love this series so much. I have never wavered. Um, it helps that it's consistent, unlike Dragon Ball Z.
Never wavered.
Um, and it is interesting though, and I would actually suggest you this because I know you've seen the movie that is in Japanese. But if you
Yes. Do
watch
you remember love?
the anime series in the subtitled Japanese version and then in the dub, because there are some scenes, the scene in like episode 4 where they're trapped in the space fortress and they're having that mock wedding and Mime is freaking out.
Is there tuna
Um,
fish?
yes,
Yes. I
like
do remember that episode.
yes, that's a big tuna fish.
Oh man.
Is that actually? There's a line that they did not translate in the Japanese version where Minmay suggests, they'll never find us, so we should just go out. We should just resign to ourselves to be rat food, just like the tuna fish."
Oh
And that
my
was not
gosh.
translated. Yeah, she's kind of losing her mind there. But essentially, in the far off, distant future of 2009, um, an alien spaceship has crash landed on Earth. Actually, that was in 1999. But 10 years later, it's been acclimated onto Earth, and the aliens that own the space fortress, the Zentradi forces, come to Earth to basically take it back. But by that time, Earth's military forces, uh, uh, powered by protoculture, fight these aliens off, and that's how essentially the Robotech wars are started. And in the midst of this, we have a young erstwhile pilot named Rick Hunter, or Hikaru, and a young teen girl named Lin May, who is like a Chinese teenager who is visiting with her aunt and uncle when the aliens attack. And throughout the course of the series, they go off on very separate paths, but they are initially brought together. He accidentally finds himself in a Veritech ship, and he saves her life when she's falling out of the sky. They are marooned into the depths of the space fortress for a couple of weeks, and they try to escape. They experience despair, and they even share a kiss before they are rescued. And since then, um, Rick is really conflicted over his feelings for Minmay because he just can't read how she feels because she's a teenage girl who doesn't really know how to express herself in really serious ways. Does she like him? Does she not like him? She's not going to really give any hints about that. Over time, she competes in the Miss Macross talent pageant and wins and becomes a pop star singing sensation, inspiring the troops and even influencing some enemy combatants in this Entrati, while he enlists in the Robotech Defense Force and eventually works his way to lieutenant, and then later on captain. And then far off in the far future of this franchise, admiral. But he is a pilot and she is a singer. I don't know if this was translated in Robotech, but one of her songs is "My Pilot is a Boyfriend," and so he's like, "Is that supposed to be about me?" Um, and while
Like a Taylor
he,
Swift situation.
while he, oh, Taylor Smith would make a wonderful mid-May, don't you think? In the
Oh my
whitewash version.
gosh. Yeah, there you go.
Uh, while he is mulling over his feelings for her, there are two people who come into their lives. One is his superior officer, Lisa Hayes, or Misa Hayase. And meanwhile, Minmay is reunited with her older cousin Kyle, or Typhoon, who agrees to be her manager and watch over her while they were visiting Japan because they were only allowed on Earth for a short time. And so when they go back into space, he goes with her. And there's a really bizarre kind of like love square going on because Rick has burgeoning feelings for Lisa. Lisa is attracted to Kyle, who reminds her of her late boyfriend, Carl Reber. Um, Kyle doesn't really like anybody involved in the military, but he seems to have disturbingly lustful feelings for his cousin. And Minmay, does she reciprocate that? Does she not? There is a scene in which Kyle kisses Minmay, and Rick sees this and looks away in disgust, as does Donovan. But then he misses the fact that Minmay smacks Kyle. Um, time goes on. Kyle becomes an alcoholic and becomes an abusive manager. May misses her time with Rick. She kind of becomes soured of the pop idol life and tries to make dates with him. So Rick, tries to see big time with her, but also has been seeing more and more of Lisa. And it's this very torrid soap opera drawn love affair that I absolutely love. It's so much fun. I love this so much. You have really tempestuous moments of when Rick is accidentally shot down and he's in the hospital. He has a big bandage over his anime hair, and then Minmay comes in with her big, like dazzling diamond bespeckled robe and her sunglasses and visits him, and then just like falls on top of him and falls asleep on his hospital bed. Um, and then later when the Antaro Quadrant uh, uh, energy shield in the SCF-1 overheats and explodes and kills Ben Dixon, Minmay has collapsed from exhaustion and calls up Rick saying, "Hey, you should visit me. Okay, just a little bit tired. Come on, visit me. It'll be fun." And he's just so. I mean, in reality, he realizes they're heading on different paths and he hangs up. But he also hangs up out of disgust from her voice. Um, Eventually, they do. Once Kyle leaves, they do get together very briefly, and Minmay kind of shacks up with him because she goes missing. She leaves the pop idol life, and it seems that they will kind of live together romantically. But when Lisa or Misa confronts them and confesses her love, he goes off with her, and Minmay says, and there's all these these tormented feelings of love and anguish and emotion that drives them all insane. uh it makes me laugh, and it's even more traumatic in the film because I think in the Japanese version generally she's a more sympathetic character, but in the film she really doesn't do much of the annoying funny stuff. And at one point, she was like, kind of missing and kidnapped by this Entrati. And at that time, Hikaru and Misa got together. So when she comes back, she tries to pick up where they left off and thinks that she is with Hikaru. And so she hugs his back like she is in this image here. right when Misa shows up, and there's this big dramatic moment, and I'll never forget when you were watching and you were saying, "I can't handle this, I can't handle this," and the coffee is over pouring and such, and it's yeah, it's a toxic relationship because they're kind of going down different paths. Um, they're actually closer in age in the original version than they are in in the American version. Well, they're not all that different in age, to be honest. But I think Minmay is too young to honestly understand her own emotions. And Rick also has problems with that, but he understands them much sooner. And I think he tries to make it work, even though they kind of have impossible lifestyles and impossible schedules, and never really could work. And he does have better chemistry with somebody else in the military. Um, but I was always going to put this one on the list because it's a ridiculous set of circumstances. But it is one that I think the series can fool you into rooting for, and so I love it, even though it's very toxic.
What was it that she said? You cut out? What was it she said when Lisa shows up at their doorstep?
Oh, she's which makes me laugh.
Oh boy. Yeah, I always felt like she was immature, and I think she does grow up a bit over the course because we're in war, so you kind of have to. But the fact that there was an attack and she left her diary, I mean, that was a first indication of like, but my diary. And she has to go, she makes him go back for or tries to. I just thought, lady, this is not the time or the place. But we here at Backroad Oracle are all about protoculture. So,
Yes.
I'm glad that, yeah, a Robotech, I suppose, popped up. Yeah, I was just always, I mean, I think I was just annoyed by her to be in the constant songs. So I was just always
Hated her.
Rick and Lisa, Rick and Lisa. I didn't want to see her get slapped around by Kyle for sure. But I just didn't really think that she and Rick belonged together.
Yes. And yeah, it's been a while since I thought about Robotech, and I remembered there's so many couples in this series. There was I mentioned there's obviously Roy and Claudia. There is Max and Miria. But this one's definitely the most toxic out of all of them, easily.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
there's a
It's
scene where uh Rick, Max, Ben, and Lisa were kind of trapped in space, and there's a scene where Roy goes to see Minmay and tell her that Rick's missing, and she does not listen to him. He's like, "He's been killed." Oh, I didn't say that. We can't contact right now. I'm saying that he's dead. No, please listen. I hear it. It just runs away. I was like,
oh man.
she's every bit as lovable as I remember.
Do you think there's someone out there for Minmay?
Yeah, the franchise just doesn't go that far. I would hope so. I think that she's deserving of love because I don't know if I've ever told you this, but like in the Japanese version, in the narrative, like the actual book size plot. I don't know if you actually strictly see this, but in like the flashback 2012 short and all that kind of stuff, they go out in the SDF 3 to explore space essentially. Like all of them do. And you don't in the whole Macross meta franchise, you don't hear from them again. So you don't know what happened to them. But I would like to think so. I mean, like, she might fall in love with an alien like
Yeah.
Max did, but who knows? I hope that she did.
Yo, dancer.
Yes, I nearly put Zor and Dana here just to mess with you,
Gosh.
but
Oh, yeah. That's all we need. Wow. Well, thanks for nothing basically, but yeah, thanks for bringing
oh, come on.
Minmay back on my show.
It's wonderful memories.
Yeah, yeah. Last time you're on Shipper Special 12. Let us remember this is the
Yes.
last time Big D is on.
That was 12 years ago when we did that Robotech Super
Was
Spotlight. I hate
Robotech
to
the
say it.
first one we did?
I think the first one we did was Green Lantern and Hawk Girl.
That's what I thought as well.
But
Okay.
I think it was I might be wrong. Wasn't it 20 I thought it was 2012.
You might be right.
Oh man. I used to listen to that all the time.
Oh my gosh. What sickness you have inside of you. Only because I
Yes.
scream at you at the end.
Yes. All right. Now, is this it?
This is it, our number ones. Okay, so the reason why this is well, I guess I'll just show it now, but I don't think I'm ashamed. I mean, I guess only a little bit ashamed. I don't think you would have heard of this at all. This is Noah and Nick from My Fault, aka Culpa Mia, which is a 2023 Spanish film that is based on a Wattpad story.
Oh,
By Mercedes Ron. These are step siblings, and I am here for it. Listen.
now, not
Yeah.
before, but now I've lost respect for you.
Oh, I bet you have. Hey, I was gonna put like another sibling one on there, but I was like, this is too much. Then we'll just go with here. I will say that the first time I saw this film, I was looking for movies to download because I was traveling from T-ticket from Harry basically back down, and it's 10 hours. And I thought, oh, this looks like a train wreck. Why not? I mean, I've watched all the after films, which are terrible, but I enjoy their terribleness. And I think the other one was the whatever that Chris Helmsworth film is, The Extraction 2. So these are like
Okay.
the 2 films that I downloaded. Now, when I started watching this, I realized unfortunately that I downloaded a dub, so it just did English, and I was sad about that, but I suffered through the dubbing, and I was so engaged, and I also had to turn my laptop away from my seat partner, that when I came home and started unpacking, I put it on my TV to watch again, but with the original, Catalonian or Spanish. So
Blame this.
oh gosh. Oh, so this is definitely enemies to lovers. Though in this case it's like despised step siblings to lovers. Nick is, I mean, you can kind of look at him. He's an attractive guy, a playboy. Noah, who's the girl, is still in love with a boyfriend that she moved away from because her mother is now moving in with the stepfather. There are some terrible things. I mean, we see him like making out with countless girls, shacking up. So he's just one of these bad boys kind of things.
He's a
Uh
rake.
Absolutely. There's some street racing involved. So we've got all the elements going on. But no one knows her way around a car, which is great. So there are some equals. At one point, he kicks her out of his car and she has to like hitchhike home, which could be very dangerous. But then another potential love interest picks her up. That doesn't go anywhere. He also takes her phone and uses it to text her mother to say everything is good between the two of them. So we're just getting all these bad parts about her. Now, for her side, she doesn't really, I think, do anything too bad. It's mostly it's going to be on his side. So this is like a Phantom of the Opera kind of situation. Noah and her mother both experienced abuse at the hands of her father slash her mother's husband. So at times we do see Noah have some PTSD moments. And there's one very intense one that Nick actually helps her out and stays with her. But she's, I would say, like she's a pretty decent kind of innocent vanilla girl. She finds out that her boyfriend has cheated on her with one of her friends. And so she just wants to like make out with somebody and take a picture so that she can get back at him. And so he offers to help out by kissing her. And so there's just some kissing. And then the next line is like with tongue, con lingua. And she says, sure. So then it's like an intense kiss, and he takes the picture. And this was at a street race. And he ends up, I think he's very worked up because he ends up grabbing a girl and like pulling her into a car, but they couldn't do anything. So he says some things like, he hasn't felt this way before. He can't control himself around her. All the classics.
A hell of a
Now,
kisser.
yeah, I would say, well, you can tell that this guy is using his tongue in real life. Now she is 17, so we've got an underage. He's 21. I believe that. So not a terrible age gap, but we're still underage. Again, we're in Spain, so there might be some leeway. But he does actually mention it. He says you're 17, and she's in the next line, I mean, it's just total a Wattpad story. In the next line, because they were making out at the point, in the next line, she says, "Kiss me until I'm 18."
Oh! 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 Oh!
Yes. So there are some classic lines. Donovan's recovering from this whole thing. He does call her little sister, and he does this when they first met because she already doesn't like him, and so then she's just even more annoyed. But after there's like some romantic things when he said calls her little sister, it is a bit skeevy. I don't really care for that. The father slash stepfather walks in on them one morning, and she was like, he had taken off his basically, they're in, like, sleep clothing, and nothing had happened. This was post her PTSD moment, so he was actually comforting it, but then and now people know. Um, I feel like we do get to see a different side of Nick. He has some anger issues. She doesn't like that he does the underground fighting. Did I say he does underground fighting? He also does underground fighting. She ends up
Oh,
leaving him.
okay.
But then they get back together and they're going to be torn apart by their parents, and so she decides that this last night they're going to really be connected, so they end up having sex. Then she's kidnapped by her father. It's like this whole dramatic thing involving money, and he ends up rescuing her. They both kind of rescue each other because they're able to do some Fast and Furious style Tokyo drifting, and are able to uh, save her. And at the very end, even though he's not allowed to, he sneaks into her room and they get together again. He professes his love for her after the coitus because she had a discussion with her friend, who's also his friend, that a guy saying it like in the midst of it is unbelievable because it's or less believable because it's just like they're in a passion filled moment, so you have to wait after. So there's like a little chuckle, but they both love each other. And then after that, it zooms out of their bedroom and you see the mother and the stepfather, and they're saying like, "We need to put a stop to this." And that's like the end. And it's like to be continued because I'm like, that's a cliffhanger. So I went, there are two more books. They've already been optioned by Amazon. They're coming. I don't know. I just find this amazing because the after films are bad. They're probably gonna find their way on my
I'm
don't
surprised you
like.
didn't list them on here.
Well, that's because it's gonna happen on the other one because I don't like those two together. It's just, like, really bad, and I just roll my eyes because it's, like, the same story over and over again, and yes, I did watch all of them, but this one was like, "Wow, this is very compelling." Yes, I have many problems with it, but it's just, like, so dramatic and good, it's just, like, kind of trashy TV that you can just, like, turn off, so there you go, that's my number 1, Copa Mea.
This sounds like the Spanish version of like the Folgers commercial
Oh
with the
my
two siblings.
gosh. Oh, yeah. It's interesting about these Wattpad stories because I just saw a trailer for a new film that's coming out with, like, Robbie Amell and somebody else, and I'm watching this trailer, probably on Instagram, it's, like, based on the Wattpad story. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, Wattpad." So,
Yeah,
take
when
it
I
as
first
you will.
started seeing books in our store, say the Wattpad sensation, I was like just disgusted because like they're like, they carry that reputation of untested authors who, are like still in college. And that's unfair. You don't want to just write off someone's talent because of where they come from. But all of those are kind of like the same kinds of this sort of dramatic romance
Yeah,
story. And um I mean, I think that to kind of return back to the conversation of taboo romances, there's definitely, I mean, it's storytelling. So there's definitely something that's just innately kind of, forbiddenly attractive to it. Um and that line of dialogue about like just kiss me until I'm 18 is meant to be provocative.
yeah,
And that's actually a good line. It's a disgusting line, but it's a good line. Just to kind of like have you react.
yeah,
So it sounds like it just hits your guilty pleasure bone in terms of like this is such a scandalous affair that I can see it being kind of trying to suck you in like unironically.
Yeah.
Um, but boy, like that, I love the idea of like it pulls out and the parents are like, "Oh God, this can't
Yeah,
go
they're
on."
yeah, they're discussing it, so I'm just like, "What's gonna happen next?" Yeah. So, well, he does soften towards the end, and we see, his relationship with, his sister who is ill, his biological sister. So we see there's, like, a side of him, so he's growing, but who knows? I think the next one's called Our Fault, unless it's your fault, but it's the fault is continuing through. So,
Wait,
yeah, tip
what is this
yeah,
called?
this one's my fault, and then there's a your fault, and then an our fault.
I've seen all three of those at the store like
Okay.
yesterday.
Oh, there you go.
I didn't even realize.
Yeah, so now you know. Copa Mayo. Yeah. So it's yeah, I was not sometimes I feel uncomfortable watching teens have sex. Just like
Yeah, of
I
course.
would yeah, just because 'cause we're of an age, I'm like, "These could be my students." But it wasn't lurid. So, plus she's close to an adult. But yeah, so I will say that it's, your mileage may vary, but
Yeah.
never would I have thought that I'd say, "Oh yeah, step siblings, you go for it." But can't wait to see how it turns out. So again, please don't cancel me. I recognize it's problematic in nature, but also it's a beloved Wattpad. So you also don't be pointing your fingers at me. Be sure to point your fingers back at yourself. So, anyways, that's my number
5,000 readers
one.
can't be wrong.
I know. I wonder what I mean, Harry would hate me if I told him to watch this, but wouldn't that be funny to do this on quinoa?
Have you made him watch any romances?
No, I think the only time well, The Handmaiden, but that was his own choice. And
Right.
then, really You've Got Mail when we all watched it was, I think, our the only time. I don't try to push him as much.
Ah, yes.
'Cause, if you wanna keep your, movie watching partner, then you've gotta be somewhat, considerate of what you're choosing.
That's true. That's true. You should choose your weapons wisely.
100%.
So just real quick though, when you when you had the idea for this,
Yeah.
that was like you want to talk about that? That was your number one easily, or did you have to kind of come to that decision?
I think after I had watched that, I was like, "Wow, I think I wanna talk about, yeah, toxic couples." So it was definitely gonna be on my list. I wasn't sure where it was going to go, especially because of Gone with the Wind, but I thought, "Man, I just keep thinking back to this and, like, I've rewatched some scenes and I, like, would like to watch it again." Just I don't know, I'm not bored with it, so I'm just like, probably because of all these emotional reactions, it needs to be my number 1. So
Hell of a pick, I must say.
I know. Oh.
Uh, but now we shall end with my pick.
Oh boy, I
Again,
can't wait.
a
Am I
foregone
gonna be
conclusion.
upset, you think?
You don't have a choice. It doesn't matter. I don't factor your feelings into
I'm
this.
the host of this show and you're oh gosh. I did not even consider this as a potential. Now I gotta stare at her little bird nose. Oh my gosh. I know how much you love her. I feel like I've listened to you talk about this couple so much, but please, one more time for the people.
Well, I'm sorry they're not Rory Gilmore and
And
all
Jess,
those other people.
Mariana.
Yeah. My number one comes from the animated series Steven Universe. It involves Steven's mother, Rose Quartz, and Steven's other mother, Pearl. Uh, this might take some. I'm gonna make this as succinct as possible because there's a lot of lore to explain that I'm not going to get bogged down in. But this is one of the most pivotal relationships that really drives a lot of drama and even like kind of contextualizes a lot of huge reveals in the series. So the backstory is that Steven Universe is a show where an alien race called the Gems fought a war with their kind of like creator slash rulers called the Diamonds, and that was over. 3,000 years ago, and in the present time, the last remaining survivors of the Gem faction that fought on the side of humans are now living in this place called Beach City, and their leader, Rose Quartz, who has since passed, is no longer in this in the story, had a son named Stephen who was half gem and half human. He is raised by the three members of the Crystal Gems, Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl. And Pearl is the like pointy-nosed bird mom, as she's often called by the fans, who is a very kind of like, I'm not saying that she's neurotic, but she's kind of a very like matronly, kind of, follow the rules and be kind of like almost like a ballerina of, kind of perfectionist, like Steven, you must do this kind of thing. And he kind of is that kind of worrywart, follow rules and listen to me kind of guardian mother who over time you learn more of what makes her tick and also what kind of are her psychological hangups. And it becomes apparent well into the first season, probably about halfway through the first season, that while all three of the Crystal Gems loved and missed his Steven's mother Rose dearly, there was something going on with between Pearl and Rose. And I remember the moment I was watching the episode, uh what was it? Gosh, what was it called? Oh, Rose's Scabbard, in which like Rose had a sword and she left that behind in her scabbard. I think they discovered it after having it been lost, and Pearl is just kind of clutching it really, really like preciously. And I'm watching this, and I'm like, oh, I think there may be something going on between the two of them. And the rest of the episode just straight up explores that, to where um, Stephen learns things about his mother that Pearl never knew, and the more that Pearl learns things about Rose that she didn't know because she was Rose's confidant, he starts having a psychological breakdown and having panic attacks and actually flipping out on Stephen as such. And you realize that not only did she have feelings for Rose, but they were feelings that kind of helped big up her sense of identity, her sense of self. And so you as the show goes on, you continue to see how this interacted with other characters, namely Stephen's dad. Like when Pearl first met Stephen's dad, sorry, when Rose first met Stephen's dad, uh, Pearl was really unhappy. She was really salty, as a lot of fans described. She was very, very petty. She's, oh, there are always all these kinds of men like you. You don't have what we have. You're just a man. Um, there's a lot of commentary on like, bisexual and pansexual relationships, intentionally so. And there's moments of how Steven kind of reminds her of Rose and how she even kind of lets that slip when talking with him. But the thing about this is that like Rose wasn't she was a very heroic figure. She was a leader. She was very optimistic and loving. She was also incredibly flawed and also kind of not a great person herself. She kind of had to learn to respect Peter's father. I mean, he even says like, we've had a lot of fun, but I don't get the feeling that you respect me. And she like just laughs in his face. Um, he tends to go from one thing to another in regards to fascinations and tends to leave people behind. That was a setup for the Steven Universe movie where she basically had an entire like best friend that she basically abandoned. So the friend had to find out that Steven even existed, and she went crazy. Um, he was petulant and childish, and just never really completely learned to take other people's feelings, but has all of these personal issues of identity and these sort of like mental health problems essentially. That's the person that she was in love with didn't have herself totally figured out as a person. And so the series ends up being Steven having to kind of be a heretofore therapist for his mother figures in place of his mother. And so it's a really kind of complex, emotionally complex show. But I do love the relationship because I have never seen in my life, whether it's a movie, show, comic book, or whatever, a relationship that is so misbegotten and bad but it's so compelling. I probably have shown you this before, but there's a scene where they perform the fusion dance purely so Pearl can spite Steven's father, and a it's a joining of two people that is a kind of like a demonstration of love and affection that has a lot of allegories, but it's basically that there was definitely something going on between the two of them, but one was more into the other person than the other. And so it's bad. It's bad. It's not good. It left a lot of emotional damage. It damaged a lot of, it hurt a lot of people. And it took them years for them to kind of come out on the other side as a better, more solid versions of themselves. Because it was so fascinating and so engrossing, I couldn't get enough of it. This image that you see right now, I have a sticker of it on my car. Uh, I love it. And well, I wouldn't say it's necessarily my OTP. It's the one where I kind of snicker and I'm like, yeah, yeah, that is my favorite ship, the Pro Rose ship of Steven Universe. And yeah, there are other ships in the show that like have been have really hardcore fans to the point of fans being really toxic, but this is the one that like I think nobody would necessarily root, but I root for it because I enjoyed seeing damage it caused and everyone that was left in its wake.
Does Pearl have a character or an identity outside of Rose? Or is it only wrapped up in her?
I mean, like, she sees herself as a soldier and a teacher and, an adoptive mother, essentially. But she had to struggle to define those without thinking about Rose. She had to struggle to, like herself. Um, there's a heartbreaking line of dialogue where she tells Steven, sometimes I wonder if she can see me through your eyes, what would she think of me now? Like she essentially her sense of self was informed by the idea that Rose was somebody that she loved and respected that might like her. And now that she had gone, she had trouble defining herself separate from that. She does, she's able to, but it takes her like the entire series to get to that point.
Gotcha.
And it's pretty heroic of her to do so. And it's wonderful and you love seeing it. It was a fascinating character journey for her.
Does she care for Steven out of a sense of obligation, or is it something that she like wants to do even from the start?
Oh, it's definitely obligation at the start.
Okay.
Um, she even like risks his life once or twice when he was a baby because she wanted she can get Rose back. She doesn't
Mm,
as an alien, she doesn't know how babies work. Um, but she eventually she loves him. And out of all of the crystal gems, she is the one that does act the most naturally motherly towards him in ways which aren't even like, largely stamped out in the show, just kind of like matter of factly. Um, so like like fans call her Bird Mom as sort of a nickname because he's the one mother figure who most consistently uh expresses those kind of like relationship signifiers, even if the character itself wasn't intending to undoing that. That kind of tends to be like just how she kind of reacts to him.
gotcha. How do you think you kiss someone with a nose like that?
It's out of shot because in this scene when they're about to fuse, like they kiss, but like the way that it's angled, you don't see their mouths connect because Cartoon Network could not show as much lesbianic themes as the creator wanted to for many years.
Oh,
So essentially, you have to use your imagination. And
okay.
and, and in this shot, yes, you had to kind of like I guess Rose had to kind of move her big cloudy head horizontal to do so.
Yes. I mean, I've heard about this couple for years from you. So I shan't say I have no experience with Steven Universe. The agreement is, of course, that I'll give it a go if you finish The Power by Naomi Alderman. But that
Yes,
has your part of the deal has yet to happen, so I'm still sitting
yes.
pretty, having not watched it. And I will attempt. to watch with an open mind. A couple episodes of it. They're like 10 minutes too, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, so quick to go. So maybe, I mean, I am interested in, is it Garnet that's voiced by AJ Michalka?
No, that Stevani
Oh
is.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that is incentive for me just because I do like Ellie and AJ obviously. So and her as a voice actress. So that's incentive because I know that that's a fusion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Her first episode is like in the conversation for best episode of the entire show.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I think you really enjoy it. Yes. I think you really enjoy it. Even though as much as I've told you, you have such performative disdain for the show that I'm sure,
Yeah.
there's nothing to really like ruin anything for you yet.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. I remember Josh showing like a random episode. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. It's really zany. Plus, I was really tired. I think it was probably at a Comic Con, so it was just not the best time.
Yes.
But we'll give it a go. Well,
Yes.
I should have seen it coming, but I just didn't. Maybe in my heart of hearts, I thought it wouldn't have popped up here, but here
What
she
did you think
is.
I was going to put up there?
I don't even know, but this, yeah, this didn't cross my mind. I feel like wasn't she on another list of yours somewhere?
We had like gay couples I think one year, right?
Oh yeah, it would have been the queer couples. My
Oh
gosh, was
man.
that your number one as well?
Oh,
Did
was
you
it?
cheat? You're gonna have to rewatch it, I guess, or re-listen. Yeah, it might have been.
Ooh, maybe it was.
I don't even remember what my number one was. It's been so long ago. Yeah.
Oh yeah, gosh, yeah. These are. Well, I mean, like there was one year where it was Chuck Dixon on there. So like the last, what was the
Yeah.
last one? I know the last one that we did was the video game one.
Yeah.
But was that wasn't last year, was it?
It
Was it
was.
last year?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was last year. Wow,
So,
golly, what a year.
yeah. Well, I
Yeah,
am
the one
sad
before that was
that,
the Bat Family.
what'd you say?
And the one before that was the Bat Family, I think.
Yeah. I am sad that you didn't do Cloud and Sephiroth.
Well, maybe we'll see how Rebirth plays out. They could shit. I mean, they are easily shit by the fans, but
Yeah.
that would spoil the game for you, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah, don't do it. There's a Kyle in there too, right? Isn't that Aerith's ex-boyfriend or something?
His name is Zach, but yes.
Zach. Is that a toxic couple?
Uh, Not that we see, really, but there's a plot element in there that I really don't want you to be spoiled on that really
Okay.
complicates it.
No worries. Yeah.
But there's no, I don't think there really are any toxic couples in Final Fantasy VII. I don't think so.
Okay. Okay. Speaking of, Donovan is, I mean, I give him a lot of crap, obviously. I
Yeah,
don't
you
know
did.
what people think when they come on and I just like shout out different things. They probably think that it's like we probably are a toxic couple. But I think deep down he knows how much I love him. And so Harry and I both went in together to pre-order Final Fantasy VII Part 2 for Donovan, which he should get as of now in 7 days. I just got a shipping update, so you should get it next week. So I'm
Yes, thank
excited
you
for
so
you.
much. I
Yeah.
got that update as well. I'm so excited. I saw this morning that like, oh yeah, Lost in the Soul. I remember that part in the original game. It was a beast part. Interesting. And I see everybody just running around dancing in swimsuits, and I'm like, oh God, I can't wait.
I will say that once you finish, I might ask if I can borrow it. But
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I can't wait to hear. And yeah, it's like an early birthday gift. I was worried because I had plans to get this for you, but then I thought, uh-oh, you mentioned it on the previous episode, and I thought, what if he goes and gets it? So that's why I was like, better just pre-order right now and send it. So I'm
Oh,
excited for you to experience it.
oh yeah, I can't wait. Thank you very much.
Well, before we go, would you like to promote yourself?
I think I shall. Thank you very much once again
Yeah.
for having me on. Uh, I can be found along with the aforementioned Harry on questions we don't have answers. Genuinely, I am halfway through editing the episode that we did this week, which should be dropping no later than tomorrow. So if you're listening to this, odds are it had just released. Um,
What was that about?
it is on. It is an episode on how the media interacts with real world topics in historical events, or PSAs. So it was pretty fun. We have fun examples. I also review the Tom Taylor Nightwing run on BatmanUniverse.net, and I am a paid content contributor for DCComics.com. The most recent thing I did. In terms of toxic couples, I did an article for Valentine's Day on could the Joker and Harley ever work.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So that was some
Did you
interesting
answer your
reading.
own question?
Yes, spoilers. No, but it was interesting. It was interesting time to kind of go through and just kind of like make sure I knew what to say.
Yeah,
But yeah,
absolutely.
find my stuff on DC.com, and you know, thank you very much for having me. And we will see. If you play your if you act right, you can get back on Kudo.
If I act right. Oh my gosh. There was something you mentioned that I was about to make some sort of quip about, but now I've forgotten what it was. Kuno A.
I think you mentioned doing some sort of like film viewing. Maybe it was Gone with the Wind or something.
Um, oh, to watch. I think was it Phantom? No. Was it
Oh yeah.
Troy? It was Troy, is what you said.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I've only seen that once, but like, honestly, like, I like the idea of watching something and you're like, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong.
Gosh. That's also that would also be a I'm pretty sure it's like 2.5 or 3 hours. So that would be painful for Harry who doesn't like movies that are longer than 2 hours.
I don't like those yet either. I remember Sean Bean was Odysseus, and I liked the Odyssey at the time.
Yep.
Um,
Brad Pitt
and
as Achilles.
all the gay stuff was out of the fifth.
All the gay stuff was out of the film. Yes, if you want a more accurate depiction of the Iliad, I would watch Troy Fall of a City on Netflix. It's also like more ramped up sex wise, but yeah, they do delve into that. And also, there are black people because there probably would have been darker skinned people since we're in the Mediterranean. And
Hey,
below, yeah, I know. So that was also nice. Yeah, I can't remember. I cannot if I play my cards right. Um, oh, I know what it was. It was about smut. No, I've forgotten. I don't know what it was. You mentioned
watching
something.
porn on Kino A, that would ruin us.
Oh, that would. No, yeah, that wouldn't be good at all.
What was it, Gabriel's Horn or something like that? What was it called?
Oh, Gabriel's Rapture. Man, there's so many of those films. I've actually thought about because that's on Passion Flicks, which takes, I would say, little known romance novels and makes them into films. The summer of COVID, I ended up getting a month subscription and watching all those. I feel like new films have dropped, so I want to, I want to go back and see which new films. There was one film that I think I'll always remember. His line was something like, I had an erection the size of Texas. I was like, what? And imprinting like him. There are some classic lines, and I think it was called Hollywood Dirt. But anyways, thank you very much for being on. I think there's really no one else that could be on and do this with me. I do man, once you said Gilmore Girls, I was like, man, maybe Rory and Jess should have been on my list because there's certainly some toxicity in that relationship, but it's too late now. And no, I did not forget Jane Eyre. I just don't see it as toxic as some people do. So
I was
that's
going to
fine.
ask if you had any honorable mentions.
Yeah. Well, now I guess I could say, yeah, maybe Jess and Rory, but that probably should have been on the list, I guess. And then that would have knocked off Garden of Words. But no, it was hard because there were some that like came to me immediately and some I had to like
Yep.
think about. I'm sure once we finish, I'll be like, oh, I should have talked about that. So yeah, I wish I could remember what I was gonna. I know what it was. Donovan is a writer, as we know, and he gets paid for it. I have asked Donovan to write me a smut book. Donovan has frozen, so I can't tell what his reaction might be to me exposing him to reading a smut book. Are you still there? Big D?
Oh, there you go.
Oh my
Hey,
gosh. Hi. What happened?
hi. I don't know, but I do hear that there's thunder outside my window,
Okay.
so maybe
So there
that
might
it's
be
on my
something.
end.
Okay, no
Yeah,
worries.
yeah.
We're wrapping up, but I told the audience that you have agreed to write a book of smut for me.
They didn't need to know that.
I'm looking forward to it. I had sent recently Donovan two excerpts. I like could barely say that. And he said, "This is poorly written." I thought, man, challenge. I think you should accept that challenge and write a smut book for me then. So I'm
Well,
looking
I
forward to
feel
it.
bad because you said that you've been enjoying El Kennedy, and I know I told you that like I think this writing sucks. So like I have to really put up or shut up.
No, that's quite all right because those two ones were not my favorite. So there were, I would say three that I really liked. So you did not offend me at all.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that was not one of the ones with my favorite male leading character in there. So we're good. So yeah, I can't wait for the titillation. But until that time, remember you can send any questions or comments to backgirloracle@gmail.com. Like the show on Facebook or follow it on Twitter @backgirloracle and subscribe to the show on YouTube for an uncut version so you can see the images we had and then any well, obviously it's uncut, so any bloopers. Follow the Batman Universe on Facebook and Twitter as well, and support the Batman Universe by subscribing to Patreon. Once again, thanks to Mile High Comics for sponsoring Backrow Oracle, the Barbara Gordon podcast, and thank you to my beloved Sweet Peach, Donovan Morgan Grant, Big D. But until next time,
Stay toxic.
stay toxic.